Well, amazing listeners. Mira here, and wow, Wuss didn't make it to the studio today. You know how I love a good dance session, right? Well, I was trying to master this new K-pop routine in my living room, full of enthusiasm, mind you. Though, I got so into it that I accidentally kicked over my standing lamp, which then ricocheted off the wall, and I ended up in a heap on the floor 10 miles, looking like a human pretzel. I swear Mike had just sat there, judging me with his tiny, disapproving eyes. It took me a good 5 minutes to untangle myself, but hey, at least I provided free entertainment for my feline overlord. So, if you're ever having one of those mornings, just remember, you're probably not a human pretzel. You're welcome. Welcome to our latest episode, where we promise fewer contortions and more insights.
Mira, I always picture your mornings like a circus act, but a lamp. Really? I'm surprised your cat didn't dial 911 for extreme human silliness. Meanwhile, my week involved a silent battle of wills at a new artisanal coffee shop. I ordered a triple shot, oat milk, cold brew with a dash of cynicism, the usual. Adjusted the lighting with his phone flashlight, even asked a barista to hold his leaf just so. But I just wanted to drink my coffee, not witness a caffeinated photo shoot. I was genuinely wondering if he was going to hire a drone. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a satirical comedy, and I'm just here for the material.
Oh, come on. Leo, you probably secretly admired his dedication. Maybe he was just trying to capture the essence of pure joy in a cup. Oh, speaking of capturing things, do you guys agree with us? Let us know in the comments when this episode goes up on YouTube. We love hearing your thoughts, even if they're about the perfect coffee selfie. Anyway, let's leave the cinematic lads behind for a moment, because today, we are diving into a truly fascinating comparison.
Indeed. Friends, we're not just brewing coffee, we're brewing a comprehensive guide. Today, we're pitting the incredibly unique nations against each other, the island paradise of Fiji and the ancient land of Israel. Wow, many of you out there might be wondering which one's right for my next adventure, or maybe even, could I actually live that? We're here to answer all those burning questions.
If you're thinking about moving, investing, or perhaps even marrying someone from one of these incredible places because, hey, love knows no borders, then this podcast is your ultimate guide. We're going to break down everything you need to know from the turquoise waters of Fiji to the historical depths of Israel, helping you make an informed decision. We want you to feel confident in your choice.
We'll peel back the layers on everything from general security and cost of living to food culture, transportation, and even things like social equality, unspiritual practices. And it's not just about the pretty pictures, it's about the practical realities. We're even getting a little boost from the brilliant minds behind Jidalfe. They truly understand the journey. They truly understand the journey.
Whether you're dreaming of a peaceful beach escape or an adventure steeped in ancient history, buckle up. And seriously, while you're listening, why not take a quick second to hit that like button and subscribe on YouTube? It genuinely helps us keep these conversations going, and who knows, Mira's next clumsy mishap might be featured. You don't want to miss that.
We're going to dissect these two countries with all the observational prowess of a seasoned traveler in the widow of, well, me. This isn't just a podcast, it's a deep dive into what makes these nations tick. So, let's jump into our first topic, shall we? This is where the rubber meets the road.
So we're diving into safety today. I always imagined Fiji as this postcard paradise where the biggest danger is accidentally napping too long on the beach and getting a sunburn. Oops, I'm now officially the color of a lobster. But truly, for such a beautiful place, Fiji generally feels incredibly welcoming, doesn't it? It's like the whole country gives you a warm hug.
Lobster sheep Mira, I like it. You're right, the postcard view of Fiji usually doesn't include a caution pickpockets ahead sign. It's all sunshine and smiles. Now, Israel, on the other hand, it's not always the first place people think of for relaxing. No worries vacation, right? Always got a different kind of buzz. A different kind of buzz, a different kind of buzz. As an observer, I find it quite perceptions.
In Fiji, the crime you might encounter is someone offering you too much cover, making you feel a little to relax. Oh, but seriously, when you look at actual general safety, it's mostly about petty theft. Like, your beach bag suddenly has fewer snacks than you remember. Oops. Or maybe a fan disappears if you leave it unattended for, 5 whole seconds. It's not usually violent crime, which is a huge relief. It's more like, is that my flip-flop or did a crab borrow it?
Yeah, a crab-induced larceny, I can see it. Now, in Israel, while petty theft exists like in any major city you know, the usual don't leave your wallet hanging out advice the bigger safety conversation often revolves around. Well, regional tensions. It's less about a missing flip-flop and more about the ubiquitous security presence. Well, you'll see on gowns. It's like everyone's a highly trained subtle bouncer. My kind of crowd.
For Fiji, my advice is always keep an eye on your pineapple. And maybe don't flash too much cash at the market. It's basic common sense, really. The locals are incredibly friendly, but economic disparities exist, and opportunistic crime can happen. It's like anywhere else, don't tempt fate by leaving your diamond tiara on the beach. I'm certain that all listeners who visited would agree it's a safe place, but not a place to forget your brain.
Or your diamond tiara, as you so eloquently put it. In Israel, the precautions are a bit different. It's more about being situationally aware, knowing where you are, understanding that security checks are just part of the daily routine, and not getting rattled by a heavy military or police presence. It's not necessarily dangerous, but it requires a different kind of mindfulness. I've seen tourists get more flustered by a rigorous security check at a homestand than by actually being in the country. If you're planning a trip, definitely check out Jet Off AI for the lead. Check out Jet Off AI for the latest travel advisories for both these places. Seriously useful stuff.
So, in Fiji, the cultural factor of Beulah, that warm welcome often makes you feel incredibly safe. It's this Fiji hospitality. Whereas in Israel, it's a culture of collective vigilance, born from necessity, I guess. Speaking of cultures, Leo, have you ever tried to barter for, say, a really large clam in Fiji, or negotiate the price of a falafel like it's a state secret in Israel?
Oh, Mira, you just gave me new material. A state secret falafel, brilliant. I actually find it intriguing how both countries, despite their very different safety contexts, manage to maintain a strong sense of community. In Fiji, it's through inherent warmth. And in Israel, it's a shared understanding of, well, everything. It's not a danger zone for tourists, it's just even with all, where's all? Like a stand-up audience on high alert. Anyway, if you've been to either of these places and have a safety tip or a funny anecdote, please do share it in the comments section on YouTube. We're always curious about your experiences.
Exactly. At the end of the day, whether you're dodging an overly friendly octopus in Fiji or gracefully navigating a security checkpoint in Jerusalem, it all boils down to common sense and respecting local norms. Both countries offer incredible experiences, and general safety, while different in context, really shouldn't be a deal breaker. It's about being informed and a little witty. Moving on to this topic, let's talk about something incredibly vital for anyone thinking of visiting, or even moving to a new country: political stability and social harmony. I truly believe when people live together in peace, it's like a grand symphony, each note playing its part for a beautiful composition. Whether you're in a bustling city or a serene village, knowing that the community vibes are positive makes all the difference. Don't you think?
A symphony, Mira? You certainly have a way with words. For some countries, that symphony might sound a bit more like a free jazz experiment with unexpected solos, if you catch my drift. When we look at places like Fiji and Israel, harmony can be, let's say, a nuanced concept. Ooh, I'm certain that our listeners living in these countries would agree with me. This topic isn't always a simple campfire sing-along.
Oh, come on, Leo. You're always looking for the plot twist. But seriously, Fiji is an interesting case, isn't it? After a few, historical dance-offs, they've been working hard on their democratic rhythm. It's impressive how a nation with such diverse indigenous Fijian and Indo-Fijian populations strives for unity. They've got their Talanoa tradition, which is all about open dialogue. I think it's beautiful how they shout, rather than just yelling at each other like some people I know.
Talanoa? Ha! Aha! Sounds like a good way to avoid ending up in a metaphorical headlock, which I'd see in some political debates. As for Fiji, you're right. They've had their moments of who's in charge now. Has seen they've found a more stable groove recently. It's almost as if they realized, hey, we've got beaches to maintain and tourists to plow. Let's keep the government from rocking the boat too much. Wow, I'm curious. What do our listeners think about that delicate balance? Let us know in the comments section on YouTube.
Speaking of delicate balances, let's shift our gaze to Israel. Now, this is a country that lives with, let's just say, a perpetually vibrant political landscape and complex social dynamics. Despite the constant debates and, yes, the occasional major headlines, there's an incredible resilience and a drive for daily life to continue with a sense of normalcy. I find it fascinating how people there can be so passionate about their beliefs, yet many still manage to coexist, finding shared spaces in art, food, and innovation. Wow.
Vibrant political landscape is one way to put it. Oh, a never-ending reality TV show with very high stakes is another. You've got frequent elections, coalition acrobatics. It's enough to give a political science professor an anxiety attack just trying to explain it. Oops. But you're right, Mira. Despite the obvious external and internal pressures, the sheer tenacity of daily life is something to observe. People are still arguing about the price of coffee. It's like, yeah, the world is complex, but I still need my latte. I gotta say, that kind of resilience is actually pretty funny in its own way.
It's a testament to the human spirit, wouldn't you say? And for those thinking about immersing themselves, whether in Fiji's communal warmth or Israel's bustling determination, understanding these social layers is key. It's not just about what the government does, but how communities interact on the street, in the markets, or even over a shared meal.
Right. Because a peaceful political system doesn't always guarantee a peaceful queue at the grocery store, does it? But on a serious note, the social harmony, or lack thereof, can genuinely impact your day-to-day experience. If you're planning a trip or a long-term stay, checking out the latest insights on Jet Off AI can give you a clearer picture of these dynamics. It's like having a backstage pass to the symphony, whatever you want to call it.
And when we talk about respecting minorities, other countries offer diverse experiences. In Fiji, the emphasis on communal living and village life can be very welcoming, though understanding local customs is important. In Israel, with its many religious and ethnic groups, it's a constant negotiation of space and identity. You'll see incredible diversity in places like Jerusalem. Wow.
A mosaic that sometimes shifts its tiles, but a mosaic nonetheless. It's a place where different communities definitely retain their unique flavors, let's say. You might have one street quiet on a Sabbath and the next street buzzing with nightlife. It's all part of the daily observational material, you know. What an interesting paradox, or conflict in most side by side. Don't forget to like this video if your observations as entertaining as we do.
It certainly makes for a rich tapestry. So, while both Fiji and Israel present unique considerations regarding political stability and social harmony, it's clear that daily life for most people, most of the time, continues with a remarkable sense of normalcy and resilience. Speaking of destinations that give you a whole new vibe. Let's look at the economic conditions and cost of living in Fiji and Israel. I always imagine Fiji as this postcard perfect paradise where coconuts just fall into your lap and life is perpetually breezy. But does that translate to a budget that's equally breezy for expats, Leo?
Mir, you always picture things with a filter. Coconuts do fall, but usually not directly into your hand. And definitely not already shelled, trust me. When we talk about Fiji's economy, it's pretty much a big warm hug from tourism. Warm hug from tourism. Wow, if you're going there to escape the rat race and live off good vibes and fresh air, it's fantastic. But if you're an expat expecting a bustling job market outside of hospitality or specialized roles, you might be looking at more sunshine and job offers. Local produce can be affordable, but anything imported, well, that's where your wallet might start to feel the island heat. Ouch!
You can afford 100 papayas, but maybe only one imported chocolate bar. I actually think that's a good trade-off. The slower pace probably means less impulse shopping anyway. But for our listeners wondering about the nitty-gritty, is it more about a lifestyle choice than a financial investment there? Would you say?
It absolutely is, Mira. It's less about building a tech empire and more about building sand castles. Rent for a decent place, especially near the coast, will break the bank compared to, say, a major European city, but don't expect it to bear cheap either. Think comfortable, not necessarily luxurious. Utilities can be tricky. Island infrastructure sometimes adds a little premium. And forget about getting your artisanal coffee beans on every corner. Sometimes you just enjoy what's available. It's a place where your biggest financial decision might be whether to buy another snorkeling trip.
A life where snorkeling is a major financial decision sounds like my kind of problem. Now, speaking of places with, shall we say, a slightly different economic pace, let's pivot to Israel. From the calm turquoise waters of Fiji to the buzzing innovation hubs of Israel. Well, I imagine the cost of living there is a bit of a reality check.
I'll say bit of a reality check is an understatement, Mira. It's more like a splash of cold water after a warm Fijian dip. Israel, particularly Tel Aviv, is infamous for its high cost of living. It's a global tech powerhouse, so job opportunities in that sector are plentiful, and salaries can be very competitive. But you'll need those competitive salaries just to afford a one bed isn't the size of a postage stamp. Ouch. I'm pretty certain that our listeners living there would nod vigorously right now.
It's like a high-stakes poker game where the chips are your daily expenses. Is it true that even groceries can feel like you're buying gold? I remember hearing about the price of avocados there being memorable.
Oh, avocados are just the beginning, Mira. Everything from a loaf of bread to a cup of coffee will make you double-check the conversion rate. The upside is the incredible innovation, the vibrant culture, and the sheer energy of the place. It's a country where you literally feel the wheels of progress turning. But that progress tag, and it's not a small one. If you're an expat without a solid job offer, you might find yourself counting shekels faster than you can say Startup Nation. Well, if you think this wrong, please let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Fiji is where your dreams of endless relaxation going to live. Israel is where your farming skills get a serious workout. I imagine the nightlife in Tel Aviv probably requires a separate budget line entirely, right?
Absolutely, Mira. Every night out is an investment. Every night out is an investment. But hey, you're investing in an experience, a culture that's both ancient and hypermodern. It's a dynamic place. But for anyone considering a move, my advice is always to check out Jet Off Faya for details. They got the numbers, so you don't end up surprised by the price of that avocado. It's essential to compare your pretend to the actual cost of daily life.
It's not just about the salary number, it's about what that salary can buy you in the real world. So, Fiji, a more modest cost for a simpler, laid-back life, often sustained by savings or remote work. Israel higher costs across the board, but with robust job opportunities in specific, high-paying sectors, It really depends on what kind of life you're seeking, doesn't it?
It really does, Mia. Do you want to surf the waves or surf the web? Your bank account will definitely have an opinion on that. It's the classic trade-off: serene simplicity versus dynamic opportunity, each with its own financial quirks. It's like choosing between a barefoot walk on the beach and a high-speed train ride. Both cool, just very different price points.
Imagine waking up in a bore. That's like a traditional Fijian hut, right on the beach. Boom. Sounds like paradise. But I bet Leo would complain about the Wi-Fi.
Complaining? Me? Never. Just observing the unique architectural choices. And how quickly you can stream your K-pop videos from said bore. Aha!
Well, speaking of unique places, I heard the housing market there is quite interesting for expats. Like, finding a long-term rental isn't just a click away on an app, right?
Oh, it's not like browsing Instagram for your dream flat in, say, Tel Aviv. Whoa, in Fiji, you're looking at more of a local connections and word-of-mouth situation, I gather. People might even rent out their auntie's spare hut.
Exactly. And the quality can really vary. You've got those luxurious resorts, but then residential housing might be more rustic chic. I'm certain our listeners who've lived there can totally relate to the rustic chic vibe.
Rustic chic, or as I call it, character that demands frequent maintenance. Some places, you're paying for the view, not necessarily the plumbing. Ouch, but hey, if you love waking up to the sound of waves, maybe a leaky faucet is just part of the charm.
Whoa. You really are a comedian, even with plumbing. But seriously, it's about setting expectations, isn't it? If you're coming from a bustling city, a simpler home in Fiji is a trade-off for the stunning nature. Aha!
Indeed. And that trade-off often includes the cost. While some luxury villas are exorbitant, everyday rentals, especially outside tourist zones, can be surprisingly affordable, but you're getting an authentic experience. Sometimes it means a fan instead of AC, and maybe a friendly gecko as a roommate.
Speaking of diverse living experiences, let's spin it from Fiji's relaxed island life to Israel's vibrant and bustling accommodation scene. Wow.
Whoa, from sun-drenched beach huts to, well, a bit more vertical living, often in very, very busy cities. You're definitely not getting a gecko as a roommate there unless it's a very adventurous gecko who somehow navigated dense urban landscapes.
For instance, is known for its architecture, right? It's super cool, but I imagine getting an apartment there is like trying to win the lottery.
Winning the lottery and then giving most of it to your landlord. That's Tel Aviv. Ouch. The rental market there is incredibly competitive and expensive, especially for anything central or renovated. You're paying for the buzz and proximity to good coffee. Aha!
But outside Tel Aviv, what about places like Haifa or Jerusalem? Are they a bit more gentle on the wallet?
Yes, they can be. Haifa offers a different vibe, more spread out, and generally more affordable. Jerusalem has its own unique market, blending old and new, but it can also be pricey, especially in desirable areas. You might get a beautiful stone apartment with a view of ancient history, but you're paying for that historical charm. Wow.
And the housing standards? Are they generally quite modern and well-maintained in the cities?
Generally, yes. Israel has modern infrastructure, so you'll find well-built apartments with good amenities. Though, like anywhere, you can stumble upon an older building with quirks. The main challenge is space. Apartments tend to be smaller than what many expats might be used to, especially in central areas. It's all about maximizing every square meter well.
I'm curious what our listeners think. Do they prefer a spacious home in a quiet area, or a compact place right in the middle of all the action? Please let us know in the comments below, especially if you've navigated these housing markets.
Absolutely. And remember, whether you're looking for a cozy spot in Fiji or a vibrant city pad in Israel, you can find resources at Jeddah Fai to help you navigate those housing decisions.
Sounds like Fiji offers a more laid-back, nature-centric living experience, sometimes with a rustic touch, while Israel provides a modern, fast-paced urban environment, often at a premium, particularly in its central hubs.
Precisely. One is barefoot luxury, the other is high-rise hustle. Both unique, both with their own set of challenges and charms. My gut tells me Fiji's construction might run on island time, while Israel's runs on. Get it done yesterday.
But you're impossible. But you know, it just goes to show how diverse accommodation can be, even within relatively small countries. It's not just about four walls and a roof, is it? It's about the entire living experience.
So I think that we can conquer that. Exactly. It's about whether your morning coffee comes with a beach view or a city skyline. Oh, though in my case, as long as there's coffee, I'm usually adaptable.
Speaking of journeys, let's move on to the grand adventure of visas, immigration, and official procedures. You think it's just paperwork, but it's like a whole new level of where's Wally. Sometimes, isn't it? Fiji, for instance, generally rolls out the welcome mat for tourists. If you're from a lot of countries, you just show up, smile, and get a visa on arrival for a few months. It's almost too easy. Like they're saying, come on in. We trust you won't try to permanently live inside a coconut.
Permanently living inside a coconut, now there's a goal? But Mira, that's just for the short-term vacationers, isn't it? My observational skills tell me that while Fiji's initial welcome is warm, staying longer is where the island time truly kicks in. I can just picture the immigration officer saying, come back next week, or maybe next month. It's like they're politely telling you, don't rush paradise.
You got that right, Leo. If you're either stay or trying to actually work in Fiji, that's when you trade your flip-flops for a stack of forms. Suddenly, it's less beach holiday and more bureaucratic marathon. You'll need an employer to sponsor you, prove you have unique skills, and be prepared for things to move at a pace that defines relaxed. I'm certain that our listeners living there can confirm it's not a quick sprint, but a graceful sway like a palm tree in the breeze.
A graceful sway, she calls it. I call it waiting for a stamp that might or might not materialize before the sun sets on your patience. Oops. Now, shifting gears dramatically, let's talk about a country where the word security feels like it's embossed on every document is real. Oh, getting in can sometimes feel like a friendly interrogation, especially if your passport has a few stamps from countries they're curious about. It's not about hiding in a coconut, it's about explaining why you're not a coconut, and what your coconut's intentions are.
You really paint a picture, Leo. But for all that detailed questioning, Israel does have quite a structured system. While tourist visas vary by nationality, if you're looking for long-term stay or work, it's a tight ship. Especially for those with Jewish heritage. The law of return aliyah provides a unique and profound pathway to citizenship. It's truly a moving experience for many, isn't it? And even for others, while the paperwork can be extensive, the rules of paperwork can be extensive. The rules are generally clear. You might need a strong cup of coffee to get through it, but you'll know where you stand. You'll know where you stand.
A strong cup of coffee, or perhaps a full-blown IV drip of espresso for the sheer volume of documents. My personal experience with paperwork usually involves me ending up with more paper cuts than actual progress. Israel's process means you'll be providing everything but your childhood diary, and even then, they might ask for excerpts. It's certainly a contrast to Fiji's and see what happens vibe. Let us know in the comments if you've ever had to submit an document you didn't know existed.
That's a good one, Leo. It really highlights the difference, doesn't it? Fiji often operates on what feels like personal connections and a laid-back approach, where things might take longer but feel less rigid. Meanwhile, Israel's system is highly formalized, efficient in its own way, but demands precision and a lot of preparation due to its focus on national security. It's like comparing a warm, sandy beach to a highly secure data center. Ooh.
A highly secure data center, complete with fingerprint scanners and retina checks, just to get a resident permit. Just to get a resident tape and more, sea breeze and smiles for a short visit, Fiji might be your jam. But if you appreciate a system that's incredibly thorough, even if it makes you feel like you're applying for a secret agent position, Israel's contemplating a move. Don't forget to visit Jeddah. I offer detailed visa information and personalized advice. They can probably tell you how many trees you'll need to sacrifice for your application.
Excellent point, Leo. Whether it's the relaxed Fiji time or the meticulous Israeli process, understanding these nuances is crucial. No matter where you're headed, always check the latest regulations, because policies can change faster than you can say tropical paradise or Jerusalem artichoke. Oh, speaking of things that surprise you, I once tried to make my own artisanal soap from avocado pits, and ended up with a third-degree chemical burn on my hand. Ouch. Which, of course, got me thinking about immediate medical attention. So, let's look at this topic: access to and quality of health services for Fiji and Israel. It's quite the contrast, wouldn't you say?
Mira, only you could turn a self-care project into a medical emergency. I always say, if you're going to dabble in chemistry, leave it to the professionals. But you're right, the contrast is stark. You've got Fiji, an island paradise where the biggest health concern might be a stubborn sunburn, and then Israel, a country known for cutting-edge medical advancements.
Well, in Fiji, you're looking at a pretty different system from what most of us are used to. Oh, the public health care is available, but it can be quite basic, especially outside of the main cities like Suva, outside of the main cities like Suva and Adi. Think fewer specialists, older equipment, and sometimes time for a broken finger and come out with a friendly chat about fishing. For anything serious. Most expats rely on private clinics or even medical evacuation. It's a land of natural remedies, and just drop some coconut oil on it,
Right, so if you've got something more serious than a paper cut, you're hoping for a good internet connection to Google nearest their ambulance. Ouch. It's like, in Fiji, your biggest worry isn't a complex surgery. It's whether the local clinic has enough bandages after a particularly enthusiastic rugby game. Now shift that mental image over to Israel. Wow, you've got a universal healthcare system, highly advanced, with state-of-the-art hospitals and some of the best medical minds in the world. It's like going from a charming village doctor to a futuristic medical spa in the blink of an eye.
In Israel, you're typically signed up with one of the 4 main HMOs health maintenance organizations, which cover everything from doctor visits to hospital stays. Aha! Getting a specialist appointment can still take a bit of time, but the quality of care is usually top-notch. They're pioneers in medical research and tech. You walk into a hospital, and it feels like something out of a science fiction movie. I'm certain that our listeners who've navigated the Israeli system would agree with me. If you think this is wrong, please let us know in the comments on YouTube.
So, in Fiji, you might spend a lot of time trying to explain your symptoms through a language barrier. And in Israel, you're getting an MRI before you've even finished your opening sentence. Oh, it's a trade-off. The relaxed pace of island life versus the almost intimidating efficiency of a modern medical machine. I mean, sometimes. I think they diagnose you before you even sit down. Getting into the system in Israel is relatively straightforward once you have residency, but in Fiji, it's a bit more of a figured-out-as-you-go adventure.
That's where the nuances come in. While Israel boasts highly trained doctors and cutting-edge technology, Fiji relies on a network of health centers, nursing stations, and district hospitals. But, they do have dedicated medical professionals, but specialized care is limited. If you need a unique procedure, chances are you'll be flown out. Whoa. On the flip side, the community focus in Fiji means local nurses and health workers are very into daily life, which can offer a different kind of support.
Yeah, but the community support doesn't help if your appendix decides to throw a party at 3 a.m. Ouch. Well, you might get a good cup of tea and a comforting pat on the back. I'm pretty sure that's not standard medical procedure. Israel, on the other hand, excels in emergency services. Their Magen David Adom, which is like their Red Cross, is incredibly efficient. You call, they're there, usually with all the bells and whistles. Wow, someone will show up.
You're being dramatic. Yes. For severe emergencies, Israel's infrastructure is certainly more robust. Speaking of daily needs, let's talk pharmacies. In Israel, pharmacies are well stocked, and you can get most common medications with a prescription, sometimes even over the counter. In Fiji, depending on where you are, it might be a bit more of a treasure hunt. You might find a pharmacy in a town, but if you're on a remote island, you're hoping you need it from homeland. Yes.
So, Fiji's healthcare is more about hope for the best and bring your own bandits, while Israel is we've got a robot for that. I wonder what our listeners think. If you've been to either of these places and had a healthcare experience, good or bad, please share it in the comments section on YouTube. Your stories help others. And if you're thinking about moving, remember resources like Chet-Alfei. I can give you ease complex systems.
Right. It really boils down to priorities. If you're looking for world-class medical innovation and comprehensive, efficient care, Israel is definitely a strong contender. Wow. If you prefer a more laid-back approach, or perhaps the ocean air is considered a primary form of therapy, and you're prepared for limited resources, then Fiji might align more with your chill vibe. Though I'm still not sure about that avocado pizza. Well, speaking of making big decisions, let's look at something that definitely impacts daily life, whether you're visiting or staying put: transportation, infrastructure, and convenience. Think about a place like Fiji with all those stunning islands. Oh, you'd expect boats to be the star of the show, right? It's not exactly about high-speed trains zipping between villages.
No, I imagine high speed in Fiji involves a very enthusiastic dolphin, or perhaps a particularly caffeinated coconut crab. Oh, Mir, you're right. The concept of getting around there is entirely different from, say, a bustling metropolis. I've always pictured it as hopping from one pristine beach to another, maybe with a small, slightly wobbly plane, or a local longboat that feels like it's made of good intentions and palm leaves.
And that's part of its charm, isn't it? The journey is part of the destination. But that also means if you are in a hurry to get to, say, a very specific harvest ceremony on a remote island, you're on Fiji time. Public transit on the main islands, like Fiji Levo, is primarily buses and taxis. They're affordable, but it's not like you're tracking them on and every 2 minutes. Oh, what do you all think? What's your top transport tip? Tell us below on YouTube.
My top tip would be bring a good book and a sense of humor. I've observed that in places where transport isn't hyper-efficient, people tend to be more patient. It's almost as if they understand the rushing won't make the boat go faster. Now, speaking of efficiency, let's pivot to Israel. Wow, if Fiji is about leisurely boats, Israel is more about making sure everything runs on time, even if it's running a little late. You've got modern train lines, extensive bus networks, and roads that are generally well-maintained. It's a completely different rhythm.
Well, you can certainly feel the difference, can't you? From what I've heard, Israel's public transport is pretty comprehensive, especially in major cities like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Oh, they've got the light rail. The buses are frequent. It's definitely designed for people who need to get places quickly. I bet our listeners in Israel can relate to the morning rush on those trains.
Oh, absolutely. And if you've got a better transit hack for those rush hours, drop a comment. But here's the thing, while it's efficient, it's also a place where you'll experience a lot of different. Privacy is a common theme on the roads. I remember being in a taxi once, and the driver was explaining a complex historical event while simultaneously navigating 3 lanes of traffic like he was piloting a fighter jet. Whoa, it was quite the cultural immersion.
Sounds like an adventure. But seriously, if you're not used to that kind of driving, getting around by car might be a little exhilarating. Parking can be a nightmare in big cities too, right? So public transport definitely becomes more appealing. For anyone planning a trip, Jet-Alfei, I can help you navigate flight options and even local transport links to make things smoother. It's much easier than trying to decipher an ancient map on the fly.
And on that note, consider how different the challenges are. In Fiji, your main transport headache might be, is the tide right B? Is the tide right for the ferry? Whereas in Israel, it's more like, is this route running during Shabbat? Or have I remembered my Ravkov card? Two entirely different types of mobility puzzles. Ooh, the road quality in Israel is generally very good, making intercity travel quite smooth. But then you hit urban traffic, and you might wish you had a personal helicopter. Ouch!
I can imagine. I'm off Fiji's smaller roads might be less about speed and more about navigating potholes or paved sections. It adds to the rustic charm, doesn't it? Ah, you're just moving at the pace of island life. But Israel's infrastructure, the island life. But it's definitely set up for a more dynamic economy and a higher population density. It's a testament to planning. Wow, do you guys agree that sometimes the best transport just staying put with a good book? Or are you all about that high-speed connection?
I'm about the high-speed connection to my coffee machine, Mira. But when it comes to getting around, I think both countries showcase a different philosophy. Fiji prioritizes connecting its beautiful, spread-out communities, often by sea or small air links. It's about access. Israel, on the other hand, focuses on connecting dense urban centers and making sure economic activity can flow efficiently. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know which transport vibe you prefer. I'm taking notes for my next stand-up routine.
Speaking of our adventurous travels, which we do thanks to the amazing jet of AI, have you ever landed in a country and instantly felt like your brain was doing linguistic gymnastics? I mean, it's one thing to order a coffee. It's another to understand if the barista is also offering you life advice. Let's look at the language barrier and ease of communication in Fiji and Israel.
Life advice from a barista, I'd probably just nod and assume it was about extra foam. But you're right, Mira. Sometimes you step off the plane and suddenly your perfectly planned itinerary becomes a mime show. Whoa! I've seen some adventures that could rival a Broadway performance, all in the name of asking for directions. It's fascinating how people manage.
Absolutely. In Fiji, for example, you get this beautiful mix. Wow. English is one of the official languages, alongside Fijian and Fiji Hindi. So, especially in the tourist hotspots or hotels, you're pretty much set with English. But if you try to say Beulah, which means hello or Vinaka, for thank you, their faces just light up. It's like you've unlocked a secret level of hospitality. Ooh, I remember trying to ask for directions to a village once. And I must have sounded like a parrot saying random Fijian words. Oops, they still pointed me the right way though. Our listeners should definitely try a few local words if they ever visit.
I can picture that. I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me that the warmth of the people transcends any slight language hiccup. Speaking of language, I'm seeing how Fiji conversations too. It's not about rushing through a chat, it's about connecting. They'll take their time, tell you a story, even if you only catch half of it. The vibe is just so relaxed. Makes you wonder why we're always so rushed to get to the point, doesn't it?
You're totally right, Leo. Now, if we jump from that laid-back island vibe to the vibrant streets of Israel, well, Hebrew and Arabic are the official languages there, and it's a completely different communication energy. People are direct, passionate, and sometimes it can feel like a friendly debate, even when they're just telling you the price of the falafel. I actually love that about them. I mean, they're not beating around the bush, are they?
Nope, no beating around the bush in Israel. More like a direct verbal jab, then invitation for tea. I remember trying to order something in a shack and the vendor was so animated, I thought he was trying to sell me the entire stall, not just a few dates. Wow, English is pretty widely understood, especially in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. But if you want alliterations, which is a huge plus, if you want to truly dive into the culture, learning a bit of Hebrew is essential. It's a challenging language, with those guttural sounds that make my throat feel like it's doing push-ups. Ouch. but it's also incredibly rewarding.
You and your vocal exercises, Leo. It's so true, though. The directness can be a shock at first, but it comes from a place of honesty. Ooh, plus, the hand gestures they use are a whole language in themselves. It's like a silent symphony accompanying every sentence. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prefer direct communication? Or a more roundabout approach? Let us know in the comments when this gets uploaded to YouTube.
Good point, Mira. You can learn a lot from just watching how people talk to each other. In both places, though, if you make an effort with even a few words, you instantly break down barriers. In Fiji, it's a smile and a beulah. In Israel, it's a shalom and maybe a determined look. What I've found is, whether it's the gentle island pace, people appreciate the effort. It's like saying, I see you, and I'm trying to connect.
Exactly. And that's what makes travel so much richer, isn't it? Boom. It's not just about the sights, but the sounds, the expressions, the way people bridge that gap when you don't speak the same language. It's a lesson in human connection.
Indeed. And it shows that sometimes the biggest language barrier isn't the words themselves, but the willingness to try. Now, if you're trying to figure out which country's communication style fits your personality, you can always check out more insights on Genalfe for deeper dives into cultural nuances.
That's a clever plug, Leo. But you're right. Information is power. So, whether you're navigating Fiji time or the friendly directness of Israel, a little curiosity goes a long way. Wow. Remember to like this podcast on YouTube if you found our linguistic adventures enlightening. Boo. Oh, I thought I'd slide in. Alright, so speaking of racing new experiences, which we both love, let's shift gears to something equally fascinating: cultural diversity and tolerance. Our current topic, we compare cultural diversity and tolerance into countries Fiji and Israel, from demographic data to social harmony initiatives and personal stories. We'll examine multicultural fabric, discover each country's unique approach to embracing differences and social cohesion.
Cultural diversity, huh? That's a mouthful. I once tried to find a street performer who could explain it to me in mine, but he just shrugged and offered me a lukewarm coffee. Ouch. Anyway, you've picked a really interesting spots. Fiji, with its silent vibes and what I imagine are perpetually smiling faces amid Israel, a place that's, well, let's just say it's got a few more historical layers than a multi-tiered wedding cake.
Layers on a wedding cake, I love that. And speaking of layers, Fiji is truly a vibrant tapestry. You have the indigenous Fijians, right, with their incredible beulah, spirit, and then the Indo-Fijians, whose ancestors arrived to work on sugarcane plantations, languages, and of course, absolutely delicious food. Ooh, you'll find a Hindu temple not far from a Methodist church. And everyone seems to just coexist. I mean, I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me, wouldn't you?
Coexistence is the dream, isn't it? I've observed that sometimes it's like a finely tuned orchestra, and sometimes it's more like a really passionate jam session where everyone's playing a different instrument. Hey, in Fiji, you get this rich mix of Fijian and Indian cultures, which sounds genuinely harmonious on the surface. But you know, even paradise has its little quirks. My sharp-eyed observations tell me that historia largely resolved, occasionally surface. It's like finding a single grain of sand in your otherwise perfect beach towel.
You and your grains of sand, Leo. But you're right, no place is without its nuances. Now, when we talk about Israel, the tapestry gets even more intricate. Wow. It's a land of astonishing diversity: Ashkenazi Jews, Sephardi Jews, Mizrahi Jews, and Mizrahi Jews, each with their own unique heritage and traditions. Then you have Arab citizens, Muslims, Christians, Druze, and a sprinkle of other minorities. It's truly a mosaic of identities, all living in one compact space. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. How do they navigate such rich differences?
Mosaic. Mira, I'd call it more of a very complicated ongoing public art project. Seriously though, Israel's story of diversity is robust. You have communities living side by side, often with very different narratives and daily routines. It's a place where you can hear multiple languages on one street corner, see various religious gods, and often feel the pulse of vibrant debates. It's not always kumbaya. It's an observer's Joe. It's an observer's dream, really. Just for the sheer complexity of human interaction.
Speaking of complexity in Fiji, a lot of the tolerance comes from the shared island mentality. They literally call it the way the world should be. It's a strong sense of community, a we're all in the canoe together vibe. While language can be a point of cultural pride, Fijian, Hindi, English, the focus is often on shared values like family, respect, and hospitality. Oh, it's less about active social initiatives and more about an inherent cultural politeness.
In contrast, Israel's approach to cultural diversity often involves more intentional dialogue. There are organizations dedicated to fostering coexistence, bridging divides between Jewish and Arab communities, or even between different streams of Judaism. It's not just about politeness, it's about actively working through historical narratives and contemporary challenges. It's like a very intense, very long-running workshop on tolerance. Please let us know in the comments on YouTube. Maybe you've seen a different dynamic.
A very intense workshop, I can picture it. And what about the impact of tourism on tolerance? In Fiji, tourism is huge, and it naturally exposes locals to a constant flow of different cultures, which I think further reinforces their famous hospitality. Tourists come to experience that warmth, and it's a beautiful cycle.
That's a fair point. In Israel, tourism is also a massive industry, bringing people from all corners of the globe. Wow, but here, it's often tourists seeking historical or religious sites. So the interaction with the diverse local communities might be different. It's less about just soaking up the sun and more about absorbing layers of history. You know, like trying to figure out which century you were in before your coffee gets cold. For those wanting to delve deeper into these nuanced cultural interactions before visiting, you can always check out Jet Off AI for detailed insights.
A quick note, you can really see the distinct approaches to tolerance. Fiji's more organic, community-driven. Israel's more about structured dialogue and navigating profound differences. Both incredible in their own ways, just different roads to social harmony. Ha.
Indeed. It's like some places prefer to hum a tune together while others are debating the sheet music. I'll get the job done, in their own unique style.
Wow, we've talked about a lot today, but let's shift gears and look at something equally fundamental: educational opportunities and language schools. I'm genuinely curious about how different these two countries, Fiji and Israel, are in their approach to learning. I mean, one is all about tropical vibes. The other is a tech powerhouse. What do you think, Leo?
Mirror, when you say tropical vibes for education, I immediately picture a classroom on a beach, maybe with a coconut tree for a blackboard. But seriously, if we're talking Fiji, it's a solid system, influenced by the British. They've got the University of the South Pacific, which is a big deal for the whole region. English is widely spoken in schools, which is a huge plus for anyone looking to study there. I'm certain that our listeners considering a tropical study canine would agree with me.
Imagine studying for an exam with the sound of waves in the background. My focus would be completely shattered, but in a good way. And speaking of language, in Fiji must make it so much easier for international students to dive right in, whether it's for higher education or just to immerse themselves. It's not like learning a completely new alphabet, which can be an ouch for some.
You said ouch? Learning Hebrew Israel can feel like a linguistic boot camp. They have these intensive programs called Dolphin, where you essentially get a brain download of the language. It's incredibly efficient, but it's not for the faint of heart. You walk in knowing Shalom, and for months later you're arguing about philosophy in Hebrew. It's like going from 0 to 100 miles an hour obstacle course.
A verbal obstacle course, I love that. Sounds like an adventure in itself. Oh, But Israel's universities are world-renowned for tech and innovation, aren't they? I've heard stories about students building startups right out of their dorm rooms. Is it true they basically live and breathe groundbreaking research? I mean, what do our listeners think? Would you rather learn to code in Tel Aviv or learn about marine biology in Fiji? Let us know in the comments on YouTube.
So I think that we can conquer that. If you're looking for a brain boot camp, Israel is definitely your place. Their academic institutions like the Technion or the Hebrew University are powerhouses, especially in STEM fields. It's an intense, demanding environment, not exactly island time for your deadlines. While Fiji offers a more community-focused, practical education, Israel aims to push the boundaries of what's possible, churning out Nobel laureates and tech innovators. It's less about sipping fresh juice while studying and more about chugging espresso and debugging code.
I'd probably spill that espresso all over my keyboard trying to keep up. But seriously, the practical application in Fiji's education, especially in vocational skills related to tourism or sustainable development, sounds so meaningful. It's about building a future right there on the islands. It's not just about making a tangible difference.
Agree. But also, Mira, don't forget Israel's mandatory military service, which often precedes higher education. And the experience fundamentally shapes a lot of young people's approach to learning and problem solving. It's like a national gap year. That provides practical skills and a certain kind of maturity. It definitely impacts how they tackle their studies, turning them into highly disciplined, often very direct students. It makes my university stories about just trying to stay awake in class sound rather tame.
That's a unique angle. So, it's not just about formal education, it's life experience shaping their academic journey. That makes sense. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Does real-world experience before university make for better students? It's something to ponder while you're checking out our other content on Jetofea.
Exactly. And speaking of language schools, Fiji also has places to learn Fijian, which can be a wonderfully warm and welcoming language. But it's less about rigorous academic pursuit and more about cultural immersion. Oh, you'll probably learn it sitting with a local family, sharing a kava ceremony, rather than in a formal classroom. It's a very different vibe from the structured, intense open in Israel.
So, one is like diving headfirst into a language pool, and the other is gently wading in. Both sounds lovely, depending on your learning style, I guess. I mean, if you're just looking for a fun way to say hello and thank you, in Fiji, you'll pick it up quickly. If you're planning on debating quantum physics in Hebrew, you'd better hit those open classes hard. Wow.
Precisely. It really comes down to what you're seeking. If you want to deep dive into advanced tech and research, Israel is a global leader. If you're looking for practical skills, a strong community focus, and perhaps a more relaxed learning environment in a stunning natural setting, Fiji offers a true unique path. I just hope the Fijian classrooms have air conditioning because I once tried to concentrate in humid heat, and my brain started melting.
My brain does that too, but usually from thinking too hard about which joke to tell next. So, whether you're aiming for a top-tier university or a truly immersive cultural learning experience, both Fiji and Israel offer compelling, albeit very different, educational landscapes. Don't forget to like this podcast on YouTube if you're enjoying our insights.
Indeed. And for those of you trying to decide, remember to research specific programs on Jet Align with your goals. You'll find a wealth of information there. Because what might be a perfect brain boot camp for one person could be a tropical siesta for another.
Speaking of unexpected moments, let's dive into something that truly dictates our travel plans and even our moods, the climate and seasonal conditions. I'm imagining Fiji's perpetually sunny beaches. And already I feel like breaking into a spontaneous happy dance. Just picturing myself laying at my feet. Absolutely no thought for what day it is.
Mira, you'd probably try to convince a palm tree to join your dance party, wouldn't you? While you're picturing your personal musical, I'm thinking about the real weather data. When we talk about Fiji, we're talking full-on tropical. Warm, humid, and pretty much consistent all year round. It's like living inside a warm tan towel, but a really, really beautiful one. Ah, it's usually around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, even in their cool months.
That sounds like my kind of weather, no need for pesky winter coats or figuring out layers. Ugh, it's all about flowy dresses and flip-flops, right? But wait, I heard something about a wet season. Does that mean my dream of perpetual sunshine might get, a little soggy? I hope it's not like a surprise flash mob every day.
Well, Mira, every paradise has its rain check. Fiji experiences a distinct wet season from November to April. That's when you get more rainfall, higher humidity, and yes, the occasional cyclone. Whoa, so if you're planning on living your best beach life, check the forecasts, because a tropical storm might just decide to join your party uninvited. Meanwhile, their dry season, imagining. I'm certain that our listeners thinking of a beach escape might want to check out Jeddah Fay. For the best times to visit and avoid any soggy surprises.
Cyclones, wow! That adds a little bit of drama to the island paradise, doesn't it? It's like nature saying, don't get too comfortable, I'm still in charge. But speaking of dramatic weather shifts, let's hop over to Israel. I imagine it's a bit more diverse than just endless sunshine and occasional cyclones. What kind of weather roller coaster does that country offer?
Israel, on the other hand, is a completely different beast, climate-wise. It's largely Mediterranean, which means you're looking at scorching, by summers and I mean scorching, ouch. Think July and August where temperatures can regularly hit 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If you're not a fan of sweating through your shirt before 9 a.m., it might be a bit of an adjustment. Then they have mild, wet winters from November to March, where the rain comes to visit. Sometimes quite heavily.
So, from one extreme to another. Oh, from humid paradise to desert heat with a side of winter rain. That means packing would be a nightmare, doesn't it? I'd probably bring a swimsuit and a heavy coat, just in case. But does Israel have different climate zones too? I'm picturing sandy dunes next to snowy mountains. Is that even possible? Wow.
It absolutely is, Mira. Wow, that's the beauty of it. The coastal plains where cities like Tel Aviv are have that classic Mediterranean vibe, hot, humid summers and mild winters. Head inland to Jerusalem and the Central Highlands, and you get cooler some winters and warm, dry summers, and warm, dry summers. Then down south of the Negev Desert, you're talking about extremely hot, arid conditions year-round with very little rain. Well, it's like 3 countries in one for weather. I'm actually curious about what our listeners who have lived in both climates think. You can tell us in the comments on YouTube.
So, you could theoretically ski in the morning and then go to the beach in the afternoon? That's almost like a challenge, Leo. I might have to try that, just to say I did. My clumsiness on skis might provide some excellent material for our next episode. But seriously, how do people adapt to such diverse and intense climates? In Fiji, I imagine it's all about finding shade and sipping coconut water. But in Israel's desert, you can't just wish for a palm tree.
You're right, Mira. In Israel, it's all about smart living. Air conditioning is not a luxury, it's on a luxury. It's a necessity during those long summers. People typically adjust their daily rhythms doing outdoor activities early in the morning or late in the evening. Water conservation is also a huge thing, obviously, given the arid regions. Oh, and for the winters, they actually appreciate the rain, it's a blessing. Meanwhile, in Fiji, adapting means embracing the humidity, living near the ocean, and being very aware during cyclone season, having emergency plans and sturdy homes. It's less about fighting the climate and more about living with it.
That's fascinating. Adapting your whole life around the weather. Oh, it makes you think about how much we take consistent climate for granted. So, if our audience is deciding between a perpetually warm, sometimes dramatic tropical paradise and a for distinct, sometimes extreme weather personalities, it really comes down to personal preference. Do you want to dance in the rain or brave the heat? Make sure to like this video on YouTube if you prefer one over the other.
And if you're looking for real-time weather details for your next adventure, remember to check out Jet Off AI for comprehensive information. It's almost like having a personal meteorologist in your pocket, only without the bad jokes. You might even find some useful packing tips that Mira here could probably use.
Yeah. Let's dive first into our next topic, food, culture, and nutritional alternatives. And where better to begin than with the tropical paradise of Fiji? Just thinking about their food makes me want to do a little happy dance. Imagine everything's fresh off the tree or pulled straight from the ocean. It's like nature's all-inclusive buffet. I hear they have this incredible cooking method called lovo, where they cook everything are just wow, infused with earthy goodness. It sounds like something out of a fairy tale, or maybe a very hungry dream.
An underground event, you say? I'm picturing a bunch of people standing around, waiting patiently for the earth to bake their dinner. Sounds efficient, if you're not in a hurry for your next meal. I suppose that's one way to avoid a kitchen full of burnt pans. Oops, which happens to me more often than I'd like to admit. Speaking of simplicity, Fiji's all about fresh seafood and those root vegetables like taro. It's probably hard to find a bad meal when your ingredients are literally swimming or growing just minutes away. I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me. That convenience is key. My only question is, where's the coffee plant in all this? Eamon needs his fuel, Mir.
You're always thinking about the coffee, Leah. Well, while you're waiting for your lovo to cook and your coffee to brew, let's talk about kokoda. It's like a Fijian ceviche with fresh fish marinated in coconut milk and lime. It sounds so light and refreshing. And perfect for beating that tropical heat. And there are taro leaves cooked in coconut cream. It's surprisingly delicious and incredibly nutritious. It's almost like they knew about plant-based diets before it was trendy. They just called it dinner. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Have you tried any Fijian delights? Let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Coda? Huh? So, basically, you're eating raw fish that's been cooked by acid. My stomach just did a little whoa. And I guess if it's fresh enough, it's probably safer than some of the questionable street food I've encountered in my travels. And taro leaves and coconut cream, it sounds like a culinary contradiction. Like trying to make a leafy green taste like a dessert. I respect the effort, though. Now, on the other side of the world, in Israel, they also have some surprisingly fresh and innovative food approaches that might just make you forget about digging a hole in the ground.
Israel. That's a culinary journey in itself. From the bustling Shukes to the innovative Vativ at Tel Aviv, it's a feast for the senses. I love how they blend Middle Eastern and Mediterranean flavors so seamlessly. You've got your vibrant shakshuke for breakfast, then crispy falafel and creamy hummus for lunch. It's like every meal is a party for your taste buds. Well, and speaking of nutritional alternatives, Israel has vegan and vegetarian food. Tel Aviv, especially, is known as a vegan paradise. It's like they've perfected the art of making vegetables sing. I wonder if they have vegan versions of everything, even those delicious challah breads.
Vegan challah, you say? I suppose if you try hard enough, anything's possible. I've always found the idea of kosher food fascinating, all those rules about what you can and can't eat together. It must be an interesting challenge for chefs. I mean, imagine trying to serve a meal and having meat separate. It adds a whole layer of absurdity to the dining experience, which I appreciate. They're doing some wild things with plant-based meats and lab-grown alternatives. It's like they're trying to invent the future of food, one synthetic schnitzel at a time. I'm curious what our Jet-Off community thinks about food science. It's quite the topic.
That's right, Leo. It's right, Leo. Israel's food tech scene is truly impressive. It's like they're taking nutritional alternatives to a whole new level. Aha! But even with all that innovation, they still have those beautiful, fresh farmers markets bursting with olives, fresh vegetables, and fruits. It's the perfect balance, isn't it? Old traditions meeting new ideas. I'm certain our listeners would find both countries offer a unique and rich food experience. Whether you're into digging up your dinner or sampling lab-grown delights, there's something for everyone.
Indeed, Mira. Though I'm still not sure I trust a lab-grown falafel. My observational skills tell me that food should probably come from the earth, or at least resemble something that once did. But you're right, both places offer a fascinating look at how culture and climate shape what ends up on our plates. From Fiji's natural bounty to Israel's diverse influences and futuristic leanings, the culinary world never stops surprising you. Don't forget to hit that like button on YouTube and share your own food adventures in the comments. We're always looking for new material.
Our current topic, we compare the historical, cultural, and artistic values of two countries. And trust me, this one's a whirlwind. Wow, we're talking about places where history isn't just in books, it's practically breathing down your neck, but in a really cool way. From ancient landmarks that make your jaw drop to art scenes that redefine creativity. These countries are dripping with heritage.
Truly think that we can conquer that. Tripping, Mira. Are we talking about a leaky ceiling in a museum or just your enthusiasm? When I think about historical values, my mind immediately jumps to places where every stone has a story, probably a very long one that would make even me need a coffee break. And the cultures? Well, those are like layered cakes of human experience, some with surprising fillings.
Always with the coffee, Lear. You'd probably find a way to incorporate a barista into a historical reenactment, wouldn't you? But seriously, let's dive into Fiji's rich heritage. When you think Fiji's rich heritage, when you think Fiji's and cocktails, right? Dig a little deeper, and you find a vibrant tapestry of indigenous Fijian culture. Wow. Their history is more oral tradition and communal village life, rather than towering ancient ruins. It's about making traditional dances and songs that tell stories, and the kava ceremony, which is super important.
Kava? Huh? That's the earthy drink that numbs your lips a bit, right? Whoa, sounds like the perfect beverage for a stand-up comedian trying to relax before a show. As an observer, I find that fascinating. You don't get the crumbling Roman aqueducts, but you get a living, breathing history in their daily rituals. That's a different kind of ancient. Ooh, speaking of unique contributions, it's pretty intained their identity despite colonial influence. Get off. I loves uncovering stories like this, finding the real heart of a place beyond the tourist brochures.
It's like every movement in a meerkat has a tale, and when you're there, you feel it. Wow, their art is beautiful to mossy, which is bark cloth. Intricately patterned, and their carving some of those old war clubs are just incredible. And don't forget the tabuay, the polished whale's tooth, a gift of immense respect. Imagine getting one of those for your birthday. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Have any of you experienced a kava ceremony firsthand? Tell us in the comments.
A whale's tooth, you say? I usually just get a coffee mug. Though, I once got a mug that looked like a whale. Does that count? Now, shifting gears dramatically, let's talk about Israel. If Fiji is about living history and rituals, Israel is about history that literally shaped civilizations. Wow. I mean, Jerusalem alone has layers of history that would make a Judaism, Christianity. And Islam is like a time machine where every corner is a chapter.
I was just about to ask that. The sheer density of historical significance in Israel is astonishing. From the Western Wall to the Dome of the Rock and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, it's not just historical, it's deeply spiritual for billions. Wow. And Masada, the story at Defiance, there still gives me goosebumps. It's a place where history isn't just on it, it's debated, lived, and sometimes, wow, a little loud. You can almost hear the echoes of ancient arguments.
Loud history. I like that. You're talking about a country that literally brought its language, Hebrew, back to life. Wow. That's not just cultural, that's linguistic resurrection. Oh, and their art scene. Tel Aviv is a hub for modern art. design, and even Bauhaus architecture. It's this incredible blend of ancient truths and cutting-edge innovation. It's like finding a tooth-fashion. It's like finding a two VR headset. This is exactly why Jet Off. I emphasize exploring destinations in depth. You always find these delightful contradictions.
That's fascinating, Leo. The blend of old and new is so captivating. Israel's music scene is also incredibly diverse, from traditional klezmer and Mizrahi music to electronic and rock. It's a melting pot of sounds. Wow. And their dance companies, like Basheva, are world-renowned. It's truly a place where artistic expression isn't just present, it thrives with an almost defined energy. If you think this is wrong, or have a favorite Israeli artist, please let us know in the comments on YouTube. We love seeing what you guys are passionate about.
You mentioned defying energy, Mira. You could say that about some of their historical narratives too. They don't shy away from complex stories. And culturally, the chutzpah and audacious, bold spirit, it's practically an art form in itself. It's a characteristic that makes their conversations and humor incredibly direct. As a comedian, I appreciate directness, even if it sometimes feels like a verbal boxing match.
A verbal boxing match. I can picture it. Oops. But it also speaks to their passion and conviction, which is very much a part of their cultural identity. Whether it's the communal hospitality, undebula spirit of Fiji, or the vibrant, innovative energy of Israel, both countries present a profound and engaging exploration of historical, cultural, and artistic values. Wow! It truly shows how human creativity and resilience shape places in unique ways.
Resilience indeed. If you're pondering where to travel next, or simply want to learn more, remember to visit Jet Off AI. We're always adding new insights and helping you find your next great adventure. And if you like what you heard today, please hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe so you don't miss our next day.
That's right. Your support helps us keep these cultural explorations going. Wow. It's like getting us a little high five across the airwaves. Our current topic, we compare the natural beauties and landscapes of two countries. From stunning mountains to serene coastlines and rare ecosystems, we explore their scenic wonders. My heart's already doing a little dance thinking about Fiji's sapphire waters and those lush green islands. Oh, it just screams paradise found.
My heart's doing a dance, Mira. Mine's just wondering if there's a decent coffee shop near those beaches, or if I'd have to bring my own portable espresso maker to a deserted island. But seriously, Fiji's all about that postcard perfect, I'm on vacation and everything's a screensaver vibe, isn't it? Whiteson crystal clear water.
Airbrush or not, it's breathtaking. Imagine diving into those coral reefs, surrounded by a kaleidoscope of fish. And the rainforests, Leo, teeming with unique flora and fauna, not to mention cascading waterfalls you can actually swim under. It's like stepping into a living, breathing painting. I'm certain our listeners who've been there would agree with me.
Yeah, I get it. Waterfalls, fish, living paintings. Meanwhile, Israel's landscapes are a bit more rugged. Let's say you go from the Mediterranean coast to the stark beauty of the Negev desert, then up to the green hills of Galilee. It's less sip your pina colada under a palm tree, more find shade under a rock and hope you don't stikey.
But that's its charm, isn't it? The sheer diversity. From the lowest point on Earth, the Dead Sea, where you float effortlessly. I imagine you trying to do a stand-up routine while floating. Leo, to the ancient craters and dwarfs in the desert. Wow, it's a land of contrasts, offering a completely different kind of awe.
Floating stand up. Now you're giving me ideas. Anyway, the Dead Sea definitely has a uniquences. You just lie there, read a newspaper, and feel like a human buoy. Then you venture into places like Mach H Teshramon, which is essentially a giant geological crater. It's like the Earth decided to punch itself in the face and left a masterpiece. Definitely not your typical beach view, but it leaves an impression. You guys watching on YouTube should really look up some images.
It's astonishing how much variety one small country can hold. Ooh, speaking of unique, what about the Sea of Galilee? It's surrounded by historical sites, but the lake itself offers a serene beauty, almost timeless. It really feels like a tranquil oasis after the desert's heat.
True. And let's not forget the Golan Heights with its volcanic terrain and beautiful views, especially in spring. It's got that high altitude, wide open feeling. So you've got your tropical fantasy in Fiji, then your ancient rugged, sometimes your floating in salt water adventure in Israel. To very different ways to get your nature fix. Aha! I mean, who would even pack for both those trips in one suitcase? My brain would short circuit.
Well, that's what makes them both so special, isn't it? Whether you prefer to dance under a Fijian sunset or hike through an Israeli wadi, both countries promise unforgettable natural wonders. If you think this is wrong, or have your own favorite spots, please let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspectives on jet or fare.
Oh, so it's not just about the food you get. One makes you feel like you've arrived at the ultimate relaxation point. The other makes you feel like an explorer on a grand adventure. As for me, I'll take the place where the coffee is strong and the Wi-Fi reaches the most remote peaks.
So, talking about places that just scream adventure, let's move on to sports, activity, and adventure options. For me, if you say Fiji, I immediately picture turquoise water and me, probably awkwardly attempting to surf. It's like the whole country is one giant playground for anyone who loves the ocean. Wow.
Awkwardly attempting to surf, you say? I can picture that. Oops. Sounds like material for your next travel fails compilation on YouTube. But seriously, Fiji's all about the water, isn't it? Scuba diving in those vibrant coral reefs, snorkeling with manta rays, it's a marine wonderland. Oh, I hear they treat it like a national religion. You'd probably find a match being played on every patch of green, even if it's just the palm trees and the coconut.
Their rugby sevens team is legendary, right? They've got that raw energy and spirit. I imagine the entire island erupts in cheers when they play. Oh, and speaking of eruption, head to Fiji's lush interior. It's not just about the beaches. You can zip line through rainforests. It sounds like something straight out of an adventure movie. Wow, I'm pretty sure you'd trade your coffee for a zipline ride, Leo.
Only if the zipline delivers me directly to an espresso machine. My observational skills tell me that much physical exertion without proper caffeine might lead to an existential crisis. If we're talking diverse terrains, let's swing to Israel, which isn't exactly Fiji's sunny beaches. It's all about hiking through ancient canyons, rappelling down cliffs, and dying in jeeps. Whoa! It's less tropical paradise and more Indiana Jones meets a really dry rock.
I can see you in a fedora trying to outsmart a tumbleweed. But truly, the Dead Sea in Israel must be an experience in itself, right? Just floating there, covered in mud, like a human pretzel in a salty bath. Oh, I'm curious, Leo. Is there a competitive sport around who can float the longest without falling asleep? Our listeners should definitely tell us if they've tried that.
Actually, the biggest challenge at the Dead Sea is trying not to get any water in your eyes. Ouch! That's a sport in itself, trust me. But moving from floating to actual water sports, Israel also has the Red Sea and Islet, which is famous for diving with incredible coral reefs, very different from the Pacific ones. Well, and then there's the Mediterranean coast with surfing and kiteboarding. It's surprising how much water activity you can find in a country known for its desert and historical sites. Huh?
Fascinating. So, you can go from desert trekking to deep sea diving all in one trip. That's a unique kind of adventure. Ooh, I wonder if there are any traditional Israeli sports that are as intense as Fijian rugby. Like, do they have a competitive falafel eating contest? Or perhaps, extreme chess in a Tel Aviv cafe?
I haven't seen extreme falafel eating, but knowing the Israelis, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a highly competitive backend. And while they might not have the raw fizzer feeded, and while they might not have the raw Fijian rugby, the intensity of their daily life can feel like an Olympic sport in itself. People are always on the move, cycling in Tel Aviv, hiking Masada at sunrise. Now, so for our listeners, whether you're chasing waves or ancient history, both countries deliver. I mean, you could try surfing in Fiji, then come to Israel and hike a mountain shaped like a historical sandwich.
A historical sandwich. That's a new one. I'm certain that our listeners living in Israel would agree with me. There's a whole lot more to their activities than just ulti baths on dangerous rocks. But really, both places offer incredible ways to get your adrenaline pumping or just connect with nature. Fiji's laid back. Tropical vibe lends itself to those relaxed, yet adventurous water explorations, while Israel packs a punch with its diverse escapes and historical depth. Wow, it's like choosing between a spontaneous dance party on the beach or an intellectual scavenger hunt in a desert.
So I think that we can conquer that. Spontaneous dance like something you'd organize, Mira. And I'd probably be the one observing from a distance, noting down everyone's questionable dance moves for future material. But it's true, the contrasts are stark. In Fiji, your biggest worry might be a coconut falling on your head during a nap. In Israel, you might be navigating ancient streets that are literally layers of history. Both offer unique thrills. If you like your adventures with a side of humility, floating in the Dead Sea might just be your calling. No, I mean the Dead Sea might have a plane when you can defy gravity just by existing in super salty water.
That's a great point, Leo. Defying gravity by just existing, that's my kind of sport. And on that note of unique experiences, remember, if you're ever looking for more detailed guides on these incredible places, don't forget to check out Jet of Faye's resources. They've got all the info for your next adventure, whether it's a surf trip to Fiji or a Dead Sea float. Well, it's all about finding your perfect thrill. Ooh. Our current topic, we compare nightlife and entertainment venues into countries, and I'm already buzzing. I just remembered trying to practice some Fijian and steps last week, and let's just say my limbs had their own very specific interpretations of rhythm. Ooh, I think I almost sprained a smile.
Yeah, you really do commit to the research, don't you? Spraining a smile sounds like something you'd put on your resume. If that's your warm-up for a night out, I can only imagine the entertainment that follows. But speaking of where the lights dim or totally explode, let's talk about Fiji. If you're hoping for a thumping, laser-lit club scene, you might want to adjust your expectations a bit. It's more about the gentle sway of palm trees and the quiet hum of conversation.
The exact life isn't about flashing light sun-pounding baths, is it? It's more about the warm, communal embrace. Well, you'll find resort entertainment, often featuring traditional cad dances or fire shows. I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me here's an experience where the culture itself is the star of the night. And of course, the cover ceremony. You sit around, drink some earthy tasting liquid, and suddenly everyone's a poet. I mean, not that I speak from experience with the poetry. Oops.
Kava, huh? So it's like a social lubricant without the hangover, just an unturned philosophical outlook. Aha! Sounds like my kind of post-how wind down, especially after a particularly tough audience. But let's snap back to reality, or where the night doesn't just hum, it absolutely roars. Whoa. Israel's nightlife, especially in Tel Aviv, is a completely different creature. It's less about the soothing rhythm of a ceremonial drink and more about can you keep up?
Oh, you are so right. Tel Aviv nightlife is like a shot of espresso directly into the soul. Ugh, You go out there, and suddenly it's 3 a.m., and you're wondering if you just time traveled because the energy is still off the charts. Clubs are pumping, bars are spilling onto the streets, and people are dancing like there's no tomorrow, which, given the time, often feels accurate. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. If you've ever had a night out in Tel Aviv that blurred into the next morning, do let us know in the comments section on YouTube.
Mira, your definition of night out sounds like a marathon I'm not prepared for without a mainline coffee, Ivy. I've seen the Tel Aviv scene, and it's a comedian's goldmine. Honestly, everyone's so animated, so in the moment or just highly caffeinated. Oh, it's less about watching the show and more about being part of the human documentary that unfolds after dark. And trust me, the material is endless.
Speaking of endless, Beyond the Clubs, Israel also has a super vibrant cultural scene, doesn't it? Theater, amazing experiences that blend into the evening. It's not just about dances that blend into the evening. It's not just about dancing until dawn. You can find a quiet jazz club or a really thought-provoking play. Oh, it's that beautiful blend of ancient history meeting modern lively culture. And if you're looking for more details on this, you should definitely check out Jet of Fae. They really dive into all these nuances.
Indeed. While Fiji offers that wonderfully relaxed, island time vibe, Israel's entertainment venues showcase a different kind of vibrancy, almost a restless energy. From the stand-up comedy clubs in Tel Aviv, I might just have to drop by for a set some time to the outdoor markets and festivals that come alive at night. It's about finding your specific kind of chaos, isn't it? Ooh. Though I suspect my chaos-strong cup of coffee. For those of you wondering where to find that balance, remember to like this podcast and subscribe on YouTube to keep up with our adventures.
Leo, I think your idea of chaos is my idea of a perfectly serene morning. So really, when it comes to nightlife and entertainment venues, it's all about what flavor of after hours you prefer. Wow. Do you want the gentle, cultural warmth of a Fijian evening? Maybe sipping coffee and watching a Mika? Or are you ready for the electric, non-stop energy of Tel Aviv? Dancing until your feet complain but your heart says more? Or maybe it's just about having both experiences. Alright. So speaking of embracing different experiences, which we just touched on, let's talk about something truly close to my heart, family-friendly environments and what there is for kids to do. Because honestly, when I'm traveling, I'm always looking for places where my inner child and, actual children can just run wild and be happy. Ooh.
Mira, your inner child is probably more chaotic than a dozen real ones, but I get your point. And speaking of running wild, I've seen you nearly trip over your own feet just trying to get to the coffee machine in the morning. Oops. But yes, this is a huge topic for many of our listeners, especially those planning a move or big family trip. So, let's unpack Fiji first.
Fiji. Wow. Imagine turquoise waters, lights into beaches, and resorts that practically hand you a coconut with a straw the moment you arrive. Ooh, for families, it's not just about the beautiful scenery, it's the incredibly welcoming culture. The local Sebula. And it's like an instant hug. Many resorts are specifically designed for families, with dedicated kids clubs where little ones can learn traditional crafts, play games, and even try mini snorkeling. Wow, they often have nannies on hand too, which means parents might actually get to finish a book, or even a conversation without interruption. I'm certain that our listeners who've been there would agree with me. It's a truly relaxing vibe.
Finish a book, you say. Sounds like a foreign concept. But yes, Fiji. From my observational standpoint, it's a place where kids can literally just be kids climbing trees, splashing in genuinely warm water, and probably making friends with a stray crab or two. The activities often revolve nature, which I cried, or even visiting a local village to see a kava ceremony. Though I'd probably warn the kids not to try the... Well, unless they want to feel like their tongues asleep. Oops, It's a very unplugged experience, which is rare these days.
But in the best way. My friend actually visited with her two kids, and she said they spent more time building some castles than looking at screens. Well, which, for a lot of parents today, is probably the ultimate dream. Ooh, they also love the cultural performances. She even tried to teach them a few moves. Though knowing her, they probably ended up doing something more like a spontaneous dance party. It's that kind of joyful energy that just permeates everything there.
I can just picture that dance party and knowing your friend. She probably had a coconut in one hand and a half-eaten roti in the other. But moving from Paradise Islands to a land steeped in history, let's shift our gaze to Israel. Whoa, it's a completely different vibe, but surprisingly robust for families.
Oh, Israel might not have the all-inclusive resort culture of Fiji, but it offers an incredible mix of ancient history, modern cities, and a very strong family emphasis. Aha! The concept of mishpacha, or family, is central to everything. You'll find fantastic science museum in Jerusalem, children's museums, and countless parks and playgrounds everywhere you go. Well, my cousin lives in Tel Aviv. She says every neighborhood has a playground that's always buzzing with kids. It's like a mini festival every evening.
Yes, and while Mira's getting excited about playgrounds, I'm thinking about the history. For older kids, places like Masada or the old city of Jerusalem are living history lessons, though you might need a good guide to make sure it's not just a walk around old rocks experience for them. And don't forget the beaches in Tel Aviv, they're vibrant and have a really lively energy, perfect for families to just hang out. What is real lax and tropical resort, it makes up for in sheer educational depth and cultural immersion for families. It's like a grand-scale scavenger hunt through time.
Oh, that's such a great way to put it. Leah, a grand-scale scavenger hunt through time. Wow. And speaking of exploration, if you're exploring potential travel destinations for your family, definitely check out Jet Off-Faye for more details and tailor-made itineraries. They'll really help you figure out what fits your family's unique needs.
Very smoothly slipped in, Mira. Very smoothly slipped in, Mira. But she's right. Jet Off-Faye, I can connect you with some incredible experiences. Now, while Israel is safe for families, it's also a place where security is visibly present. For some, that might be a slight adjustment, but it often translates to a very secure feeling in daily life. You'll see families out late, enjoying dinners like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem of the place.
True. True. And what about activities that blend both fun and learning? I've heard about some amazing archaeological digs for kids in Israel, where they can actually participate. Wow. I'm actually curious about what our listeners who've taken their kids to such sites think about this. If you've got stories, please let us know in the comments when we upload this to YouTube. We'd love to hear them.
Yes, digging for history is certainly more engaging than digging for motivation to do homework, which is more common. But it shows that both countries, despite their vast differences, one with its blissful beaches, the other with its layers of history and Fiji offers a gentle natural embrace, while Israel provides a more intellectually stimulating, but equally warm environment.
If you're a family looking for a completely relaxed, barefoot in the sand kind of vacation, Fiji is calling your name. But if you want to mix vibrant city life and lively cultural experiences with your family, Israel offers an unparalleled adventure. Wow, it's like choosing between a perpetual summer holiday and a really exciting living textbook.
I'm certain that our listeners living in either country would agree with me that each has its unique charm for families. Oh, it just depends on whether you prefer to mix angels or discover ancient artifacts. And don't forget to like this video on YouTube if you found our comparison helpful. It helps us a lot.
Ooh, So, when we talk about embracing diversity and fostering truly inclusive environments, the LGBT-friendly atmosphere in a country really paints a picture, doesn't it? It's like seeing how wide a smile a nation can wear.
Mira, you always manage to make complex social issues sound like a summer festival. But you're right. It's about genuine acceptance, not just, polite nodding. Let's look at Fiji first. For a long time, their laws weren't exactly a party invitation for the LGBT community.
That's true, Leon. Ooh, it made some significant strides. In 2010, they decriminalized consensual same-sex acts, and the 2013 Constitution actually prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation. Wow, for a nation in that region, that's incredibly progressive.
Progressive on paper, maybe. But, as my travel notes often remind me, law and local custom can sometimes be distant cousins. You might have the legal protection, but explaining why your partner isn't the traditional choice to a village elder in the Highlands could still be an interesting conversation. I imagine a lot of polite, confused smiles.
You aren't your mental images, Leo. That's the reality in many places, isn't it? It's a journey, not a destination. Speaking of different journeys, let's look at Israel. That's a country often seen as incredibly forward-thinking, especially when compared to its neighbors.
Forward-thinking, yes. Especially if you're in Tel Aviv, which is practically a standalone metropolis of inclusivity. Wow. That city's pride events are legendary, people flying from all over the world just for the sheer energy. It's like the entire city decides to put on its most fabulous outfit and dance until sunrise. Ooh, I'm certain many of our listeners watching on YouTube have seen clips from it.
You've captured the vibe perfectly. Beyond the incredible parties, Israel has strong legal protections. They recognize same-sex marriages performed abroad, and openly LGBT individuals can serve in the military. It's a striking contrast to some other countries in the Middle East.
It is a contrast that let's not pretend it's all rainbows, sprinkles, and unicorns everywhere. While Tel Aviv is undeniably vibrant, if you wander into, say, Jerusalem, you might find a different social climate. It's like the separate universes coexisting in one country. Well, I'm curious what our listeners who've been to think, does it feel like a dramatic shift?
It absolutely can. Aha! It highlights that societal acceptance is a complex tapestry, even within one country. Some areas are more conservative, rooted in religious traditions, while others are incredibly modern and open. It's not always a smooth, consistent experience.
Indeed. Sometimes it feels like you need two different guidebooks for the same country. One for the urban hotspots, and one for everywhere else, perhaps with a warning label about potential polite awkwardness. Ouch. But, Israel is miles ahead in many aspects compared to others globally.
And both Fiji and Israel are navigating their own paths towards greater inclusivity. It takes time, conversation, and a lot of heart. If you guys appreciate these honest discussions, remember to like this podcast on YouTube and subscribe so you don't miss out on more insights.
Yes, and comment below if you've got personal experiences or different perspectives. We love hearing from you, and it helps us shape future topics. And of course, a huge thank you to Jet AI for helping us make these conversations happen and keeping the virtual studio lights on.
It's all about fostering understanding one episode at a time. We're here to celebrate every step on the rainbow.
Speaking of steps, I'm just picturing you trying to teach a traditional Fijian dance while wearing a rainbow sequin suit. Now that's a cultural exchange I'd pay to see.
You know I'd try. And I'm certain I'd make them laugh. Our current topic, we compare hospitality and attitudes towards foreigners into countries, uncovering welcoming cultures and real expat experiences. From warm embraces to cultural norms around integration, we highlight global friendships. Let's dive into Fiji, Leo. From what I've heard, it's like a giant sun-kissed hug. Everyone's always saying Beulah, and they really mean it. It's not just a greeting, it's an invitation to feel completely at home. Almost immediately. I hope.
I? A sun-kissed hug, you say? Sounds like something out of a brochure, Mira. I imagine it's all Beulah until you accidentally step on someone's flip-flop. But no, seriously, I've heard the Fijian hospitality is legendary. They really do have this genuine warmth that makes you feel like you've been about 5 minutes. It's like they're competing for who can oust mangoes. I'm certain our listeners who visited Fiji would agree with me, probably with a mouthful of mango.
Wow. It's not just about the beautiful beaches, it's the people. They're just so open and ready to share their culture. I mean, they invite you to kava ceremonies like your long-lost cousins. Whoa. You sit there, clap, drink the muddy-looking, tongue-numbing kava, and suddenly you're part of the village. It's less about formality and more about just well-being. Do you guys agree with us? If you've ever had kava, let us know if it made your tongue gum in the comments.
So, I think that we can counter that. Muddy-looking and tongue-numbing sounds like my kind of party. No, wait. That's my coffee before I've had enough sleep. Speaking of genuine warmth, the directness can sometimes be surprising. But it's completely different from, right? It's completely different from, say, some places where you get a polite smile. I feel like there's a velvet trope in Fiji. Just maybe a grass skirt.
That's a funny way to put it, Leo. But you're right. It's that authenticity. Now, if we shift gears a bit, let's look at Israel. That's a country with a very different vibe, isn't it? My understanding is that Hatshene Esad or Chim, or hospitality, is also deeply ingrained there. But perhaps with a different flavor.
Different flavor is one way to put it. You go from the gentle, swaying palms of Fiji to the bustling, passionate intensity of Israel. Hospitality is huge there, yes, but it comes with a certain directness. If a shopkeeper asks you a question, it's not a suggestion, it's not a suggestion, it's not being rude, they're just skipping the small talk and getting to the point. It's like the cultural equivalent of a New Yorker telling you, get it to you, but meaning it warmly.
I get that, so instead of a gentle Beulah, it might be more like, why are you standing there? Come eat. Is that what you mean? Because I can appreciate that, actually. Sometimes that directness means you always know where you stand, and there's no pretense. It's like, here's the food, eat it. Your family now? Ooh, I think that's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. There's no ambiguity. If they offer you tea, they really want you to have tea, not just to be polite. And they'll probably ask you 20 questions about your life story while you're drinking it. It's a very communal society in many ways. And if you're integrated, you're really integrated. But it can take a minute to adjust to the speed and to sometimes intense conversations. My first time, I thought everyone was arguing, turns out. That's just how they discuss dinner plans.
That sounds like my family dinners, actually. Ooh, so it's passionate discussions that might seem like arguments to an outsider, but it's just how they communicate. I think our listeners on YouTube, especially those from bustling cities, can relate to that. What do you think, guys? Have you ever thought someone was mad at you, and they were just enthusiastically talking? Tell us in the comments.
Yes, it's all about passion. And when it comes to foreigners, while they are incredibly welcoming, there's also a strong sense of identity and community. You might find different groups having different attitudes, which is natural and size-fits-all welcome at. Some communities are incredibly eager to share their standable. It's less about a general come in. It's less about a general come in, stranger and more about come in. Tell us your story, but also, what's your take on the latest news?
Every culture has its nuances, right? Fiji sounds like a constant, gentle embrace, while Israel seems to offer a more direct, but equally profound, connection. Both sound incredibly rewarding, just in different ways. It's like choosing between a soft, warm blanket and a perfectly brewed, strong espresso. Which would you prefer, Leah?
I'd take the espresso, Mira. A strong black espresso, probably at 3 N. I'd be ready to dissect the world's absurdities with a group of passionate strangers. But no, honestly, it shows that hospitality isn't just one thing. But countries, in their own unique ways, truly make visitors feel special.
Alright, so speaking of staying connected, let's dive into something pretty in today's world: internet infrastructure and digital facilities. We've got two wildly different places on the digital map today, Fiji and Israel.
Oh, this is going to be good. Fiji, where I imagine the WFI signal is powered by a coconut radio and the broadband, is just a really wide beach. Mira, you're always trying to upload your latest dance craze to YouTube. How do you even manage on an island?
You know me, Leo, always ready for a challenge. While it's true that Fiji has that charming island time vibe which sometimes extends to internet speeds, they are actually making strides. Wow, you can find pretty decent Wi-Fi at most resorts and in the main cities like Suthi and Nadi. But if you wander us to the smaller, more remote islands, you might find yourself bartering for a signal with a friendly crab. I actually tried to do a live stream from a hammock once. And it looked more like a pixelated interpretive dance. Oops.
A pixelated interpretive dance, I'm putting that on my stand-up set. My observational skills tell me that's prime material. So, in Fiji, you're not streaming 4K movies, you're probably just hoping your email actually sends before the tide comes in. It's less about smart cities and more about smart, if you can get a signal. I'm certain that our listeners who've tried to work remotely from a Fijian island would agree. Ouch.
Well, since we're talking about countries at opposite ends of the digital spectrum, let's zip over to Israel. Wow, this country is practically a living, breathing tech lab. From Tel Aviv's bustling startup scene to cutting-edge cyber custodial firms, they're like a digital future that arrived early. You walk down the street, and it feels like everyone's a genius working on the next big app.
Whoa! Yeah, Israel's like that super efficient friend who always has the latest gadget before you even know it exists. My experience, though, tells me they've got fiber optics so fast, you could probably download your entire life story in about 3 seconds. It's almost too efficient, if you ask me. Where's the drama? Where's the comedic struggle at W? Wi-Fi network that barely works. They even have smart cities that probably tell you when you're running low on falafel.
You're just jealous because their infrastructure doesn't give you any material for your man verses. Machine jokes, Leo. But seriously, the innovation in Israel is incredible. Digital services are deeply interoperable. Digital services are deeply into public transport apps. It makes things incredibly convenient for residents and visitors alike. It really feels like they're building a tech-driven lifestyle, not just tech infrastructure. Wow. And if you're a digital nomad, it's like a playground.
True, but for us observational types, sometimes too much efficiency means fewer quirks to poke fun at. Imagine wanting to find a good lost in translation moment when everyone's got an instant translator X. Ouch. Though, I bet even with all that advanced tech, someone still accidentally orders a pizza with pineapple on it. Speaking of which, for all our tech-savvy listeners out there, if you're curious about finding the best travel tech for your next adventure, remember to check out Jet Off AI. They've got all the info you need to stay connected, or at least help you find Wi-Fi in a Fijian village.
That's a great point, Leo. Whether you're chasing the elusive Fijian signal, or navigating Israel's hyper-connected streets, understanding the digital landscape is key. And while Fiji is still building out its comprehensive digital infrastructure, the experience there is less about seamless connectivity and more about unplugging and enjoying the natural beauty. Wow, it's almost an enforced digital detox, on the other hand. Instantly.
So, Fiji's digital facilities are for when you want to tell your boss you couldn't get online for 3 days. And Israel's are for when you want to show your boss you built a new startup during lunch. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Which one sounds more appealing for your digital life? The serene disconnect or the hyper-efficient? If you think I'm wrong about Israel having too much efficiency, please let us know in the comments on YouTube. We'll be reading every single one.
You're just looking for more material, Leo, aren't you? But it does highlight how different countries prioritize and integrate technology into daily living, from basic mobile coverage to advanced fiber optics. It reshapes the travel experience and how connected you feel to the world. It's about finding the digital rhythm that suits you.
So, whether you're uploading your dance moves from a Fijian beach or launching a new app from a Tel Aviv cafe, the internet's there somewhere.
So, we've talked about everything from landscapes to nightlife. But what about the ultimate traveler's quest shopping opportunities in that tricky price-performance balance? I always end up buying something utterly ridiculous on trips. Like that tiny, singing camel figurine from my last adventure. It's supposed to be a good luck charm, but mostly it just sounds like a cat in distress.
Mira, you always find the most charmingly absurd things. I swear, you could make a market stall out of your souvenir collection alone. But seriously, when we talk about shopping, it's not just about filling your suitcase. It's about finding that authentic piece or sometimes just recognizing a good deal when you see it, which is rarer than a quiet market in my experience.
Speaking of authentic pieces, let's dive into Fiji's shopping scene. Wow, you're not going to find massive malls or endless high-fashion boutiques there. It's more about the local markets and artisan crafts. Think beautiful hand-woven mats, intricate wooden carvings, and the iconic mossy cloth. Ooh, I just love the idea of buying something directly from the person who made it, connecting with their culture. It feels like shopping and more like treasure hunting.
Treasure hunting, indeed. Especially if your idea of treasure is a kava bowl that doubles as a hat. But you're right, the value in Fiji often comes from those unique, locally made items. The price-performance balance for those, I'd say, is generally quite good, especially if you enjoy a friendly haggle. However, if you're looking for imported goods, like that specific brand of gadget, ouch, shipping things to a remote paradise isn't exactly cheap, is it?
No, it certainly isn't. It's like those items took a luxury cruise just to get there. But if you're just looking for souvenirs or a beautiful sarong to wear on the beach, you'll find plenty of charm for your buck. Ooh, now, let's flip the coin entirely and look at Israel's shopping landscape. Wow, it's a completely different retail experience, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Whoa! In Israel, you can buy ancient olive oil in one alley and the latest smartphone in the next. It's like retail schizophrenia. Tel Aviv, for instance, has modern malls that could rival anything in the States, filled with international brands and high-tech gadgets. Then you step into places like Shak HaCarmel or the Mia Huda Market. And it's this glorious and unexpected treasures. Aha! In the best possible way.
That latest smartphone probably costs an arm, a leg. And maybe your firstborn. Right? And maybe your firstborn. Right? And maybe your firstborn, right? Right? When it comes to price performance in Israel, particularly for tech or imported fashion, it tends to be on the higher side, in line with European cost. However, in the markets, you can still find good value to look and maybe, just maybe, try a bit of polite bargaining.
Yeah, polite bargaining is key, Mira. Otherwise, you might end up in a heated debate over a carrot. But that's where the fun is, isn't it? For our listeners out there, I'm certain that anyone who's tried to navigate the prices for high-end electronics or designer clothes in Tel Aviv would agree that your wallet might feel a bit lighter. Ouch! However, I find the street markets, or shukas as they're called, to be fantastic places for culinary exploration and unique gifts that won't break the bank.
And speaking of breaking the bank or maybe saving it, remember you can always check out Jet Off for flight deals if you're planning a trip to either of these shopping paradises. For those of you watching on YouTube, if you've got a favorite shopping spot in Fiji or Israel, or a wild story about a purchase, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your retail adventures.
Indeed, friends. And friends. And if you think Mira singing camel is bizarre, wait until I tell you about my talking fridge. It's a whole other level of price performance. But for now, whether you're looking for handcrafted beauty in Fiji or a tech marvel in Israel, both countries offer a distinct and memorable shopping experience. Wow, just try not to get lost in the spice aisles.
Our current topic, we're diving into the vibrant world of cultural events, festivals, and concert opportunities. And believe me, it's a whole new playlist. Ooh, from ancient traditions to modern beats, it's about celebrating what makes a place tick. I'm so excited to talk about Fiji, that tropical paradise, and then pivot to the historic and bustling Israel.
A new playlist, Mira? I thought you were just going to tell us about your latest dance-off with a street performer you met in some random alley. But Fiji, huh? I picture a lot of swaying palms and gentle guitar strumming. Are we talking about swaying dental guitar strumming?
You know me, Leo. I'd dance with a coconut if it looked at me funny. But yes, Fiji. It's truly special. Their meerkat dances are incredible. Wow, it's not just a performance, it's storytelling through movement, often accompanied by traditional songs and rhythms. And then there's the kava ceremony, which is a significant social ritual. It's a respectful gathering, often for welcoming guests.
Kava, right? The drink that tastes like muddy water but makes your lips tingle. I once had a friend who thought it was a new brand of artisanal dirt. Speaking of unique traditions, it's fascinating how a ritual can be so central to a culture's identity. I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me.
And their festivals are just as lively. There's the Hibiscus Festival in Suva, which is a week of parades, performances, and food stalls, a real explosion of community spirit. And the Beulah Festival in Nade, celebrating Fijian heritage and diversity. They are all about togetherness and showcasing their beautiful culture. It's like one big happy family party.
Sounds like you'd fit right in, Mira, bouncing from one stall to another, probably trying to teach a fire dancer a new move. Now, shifting gears from tropical bliss to a place with millennia of history, let's talk about Israel. Their cultural calendar isn't just about ancient sites, it's a pulsating hub of activity.
Wow. Yes, Israel, a land with so much history, but also a very modern pulse. Their cultural events are incredibly diverse, reflecting the many communities that live there. You have the vibrant Jerusalem Light Festival, transforming the old city into a canvas of light and art. And, of course, the Tel Aviv Pride Parade, which is one of the largest in the world. It's a massive celebration of acceptance and joy.
Tel Aviv's energy is something else. I once saw a guy doing a just saxophone solo on a unicycle there. You just don't expect it. When it comes to concerts, Fiji tends to be more about local bands, resort entertainment, or smaller, intimate gatherings, right?
In Fiji, you'll find more relaxed concerts at resorts, with local musicians playing their island reggae and traditional tunes. It's all about unwinding and soaking in the atmosphere. You won't typically find massive international rock concerts there, but the local talent and the natural settings make it truly magical.
In contrast, Israel has a surprisingly robust concert scene. Tel Aviv is a magnet for international acts from pop to rock to electronic. You'll find venues packed any night of the week. There's also the Red Sieges Festival in Islet, which draws a global crowd, or the Klezmer Festival in Safed. It's a complete cultural buffet.
It really is. The fusion of ancient traditions with contemporary music in Israel creates a unique soundscape. From world music to avant-garde performances, there's always something new and exciting happening. And these aren't just one-off events, they're woven into the fabric of daily life. For more detailed insights into how these cultural trends influence travel, you could always check out Genofai, by the way.
Yes, because navigating the cultural nuances can be a full-time job. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you prefer the relaxed, community-focused festivals of a place like Fiji, or the high-energy, diverse concert scene of Israel? drop us a comment on YouTube. We'd love to hear it.
Don't forget to hit that like button too while you're there. It really helps us bring more of these fun comparisons to you. Both countries offer such rich experiences, uniting people through celebration.
Indeed, whether it's the rhythm of a meat cadence or the beat of an electronic music festival in Tel Aviv, each place uses cultural events to tell its story. It's not just entertainment, it's events, sometimes with better lighting.
You know, Leo, every time we talk about a new country, my brain immediately thinks, okay, what's the first silly phrase I'm going to learn there? It's like my personal challenge. But then I hit a wall, sometimes literally, with how easy or hard it is.
I feel, Mira. My brain usually goes, where's the nearest coffee? And then, how do I order it without looking like I'm asking for a pet parrot? Language learning's often just about avoiding unnecessary formalities or worse, accidental insults. So, when it comes to opportunities and ease of learning the local language, are we talking the park or climb Mount Everest blindfolded?
Well, let's start with Fiji, shall we? You've got English, which is super widely spoken and makes things incredibly easy for tourists and anyone just arriving. But then you have Fijian and Fijian-Tea as official languages. You can get by just fine with English, so in terms of ease, it's pretty chill. Learning a few Fijian phrases like Beulah, for hello of Vanaka for thank you really makes a difference though. People light up. I'm certain that our list living there would agree with me.
So, Beulah and Vinaka got it. Sounds like my kind of language challenge level ordering a single espresso. I can just imagine someone trying to order a triple shot of coffee in Fijian and accidentally adopting a village elder instead. Whoa. But seriously, if English is the default, it feels less like a language opportunity and more like a gentle suggestion to maybe try a few words. No first immersion would try a few words together in a language. There's a blessing.
You're missing the point, Leo. It's not about being forced, it's about connecting. It's like, you know how you feel when someone tries to tell a joke in your native language, even if they mess it up. Wow. That effort, that's what builds bridges. And speaking of bridges, that's a whole different ballgame.
I know this one. Israel, where the language learning program isn't just a suggestion, it's practically a national sport. You've got Hebrew, which looks like my doctor's handwriting, and Arabic. While English is spoken in major cities, especially by the younger crowd, if you're there for the long haul, Hebrew is pretty much non-negotiable. I mean, they have these things called opening, right? Intensive language schools. It's not Beulah, my friend. Let's rewrite our entire brain to understand this alphabet. Ouch!
You're so dramatic. But you're not wrong about the opening, wow. They're intense, but they're incredibly effective. They're designed for new immigrants to integrate quickly, which means there are loads of opportunities to learn Hebrew. Public opening are often subsidized, and there are private options too. So, while it's a challenging language to learn, the infrastructure for learning it is incredibly linguistic boot camp, but you emerge ready for action.
Linguistic boot camp sounds like my kind of torture. I once tried to learn a few Hebrew phrases for a gig in Tel Aviv, and I ended up ordering 3 extra falafels by accident. Oops. The vendor just kept laughing. But that's the thing, isn't it? In Fiji, you can relax, soak up the sun, and English will be your safety net. In Israel, you're expected to jump in head first, earn the language, and then debate philosophy with taxi drivers. It's like the difference between a gentle ocean current and a whitewater rafting trip.
You always find a way to make it sound like an extreme sport, Leo. It's true. The cultural immersion aspect is different. In Fiji, learning a few words is a bonus that brings smiles. In Israel, learning Hebrew is key to truly understanding the culture, the humor, the news. It's how you unlock the deeper layers. So, if you're a serious language learner, Israel offers a clear path. If you just want to get by and enjoy the scenery, Fiji's got your back. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? If you've tried learning a language in either country, Let us know how it went in the comments below. We'd love to hear your stories.
Oh, and if you're looking for more insights on what it's like to live or travel in these places, check out Jetoffe. They've got tons of detailed info to help you decide. Because whether you're trying to figure out how to say more coffee in a new tongue or just trying to navigate the local street food, a little preparation goes a long way. I wonder if they have a section on how to apologize for accidentally ordering 3 parrots instead of coffee.
You know, after all that talk about finding your perfect spot, whether it's for unwinding or ramping up, it makes me think about how different places feel, especially if you're a woman traveling solo with friends. Today, we're diving into that, looking at Fiji and Israel from a woman traveler's perspective. I've always imagined Fiji as a place where you just float, you know, like a happy jellyfish.
I happy jellyfish, Mira. You're already making me picture someone gently drifting. For me, when I think of Fiji, I picture endless relaxation, maybe too much relaxation, maybe too much relaxation. But in all seriousness, safety is key, and it's not always about just floating. Women travelers, in particular, often consider what kind of welcome they'll receive. It's not just about the overall vibe.
In Fiji, the culture is so famously warm and welcoming. Oh, the concept of Beulah, and that genuine community feeling really stands out. People are incredibly respectful, and there's a strong emphasis on family and traditional values. I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me on that. You rarely hear about serious incidents, especially in the main tourist areas. Locals are often very protective, almost like extended family.
I think that we can interpret it. I can see that. That Beulah spirit probably extends to keeping an eye out for visitors. My observation, and you can tell me if my observation is someone's being disrespectful. It's all self-policing in a way. But you're right, even in paradise, vigilance smart. We've all seen those online forums where people share tiny slip-ups.
Even in the friendliest places, you still use your common sense. Like not leaving your drink unattended at a beach bar. Because even a happy jellyfish knows better than that. But generally, the laid-back atmosphere in Fiji means you're less likely to encounter aggressive situations. It's more about being mindful of cultural norms, like dressing modestly when visiting villages or sacred sites. It's just showing respect, really.
Modesty, yes. That's a good point, Mira. Speaking of places with strong cultural norms, let's pivot to Israel. Whoa, that's a country with a vastly different public image regarding safety. While it's known for its robust security presence, sometimes they can be misinterpreted by travelers. My impression is that while you'll see a lot of security, it's often directed at larger, more complex issues, not necessarily everyday crime against women.
In Israel, the security measures are very visible, which can feel a bit intense at first for some, but paradoxically, it contributes to a feeling of safety on the ground for women. Wow, it's a country where people are quite direct, which I personally appreciate. You know where you stand. In cities like Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, there's a vibrant, modern vibe, and women generally feel very comfortable moving around, even at night.
So, I think that we can counter that. That's interesting, Mira. So, a high security presence actually makes women feel more secure, rather than creating an atmosphere of tension. I always thought it would be the opposite. My observational skills tell me that Israeli society is often portrayed as very family-oriented and communal, which might also contribute to a sense of collective responsibility for safety. Is that fair to know? Please let us know in the comments on YouTube.
It is. Israel has compulsory military service for both men and women, which I think fosters a sense of resilience and self-reliance. Women are very empowered there. In many areas. Especially Tel Aviv. The nightlife is incredibly active and women go out freely. Of course, just like anywhere, You need to be aware of your surroundings and avoid isolated areas. But it's not a place where women are routinely targeted.
That's a good contrast. Fiji with its inherent communal warmth and natural protectiveness, and Israel with its visible security and a culture of empowered women. It sounds like both offer different flavors of comfort. It's not always about what you don't see, but sometimes about what's overtly present, right? And I'm actually curious about what our Jet Off AI listeners think about this.
And you'll find that in both places, people are generally helpful if you need directions or assistance. Whether it's the laid-back islanders of Fiji or the bustling energy of Israel, politeness usually opens doors. So, pack your bags with confidence, ladies. Just remember that was about the happy jellyfish. Well, since we just talked about finding your perfect travel destination, let's look at the fascinating world of legal systems, individual rights, and freedoms. Today, we're diving into Fiji and Israel. Two countries with such unique histories, right? I'm excited to see how their laws shape daily life. Ooh.
Excited about laws. That's a new one. Excited about laws. That's a new one. Usually, people only get excited about laws when they're trying to figure out if they can still get coffee after midnight. But you're right, it's pretty interesting. You've got Fiji, with its beautiful islands and a legal system rooted in British common law, and then Israel, which is a whole different ballgame with its mix of common law, religious law, and its own unique basic laws instead of a single constitution. It's like comparing a relaxed betrayed to a complex philosophical text.
Oh, come on, Leo. Laws can be fun, especially when you think about how they impact human rights. Like, Fiji's had its share of constitutional changes, almost like they're trying on different outfits to see what fits best. Their 2013 constitution was supposed to bring stability. I wonder if it actually feels stable for the average person living there. Do they wake up thinking, is today a new legal adventure?
That's a good question. You know, from my observational point of view, sometimes constitutional promises are like New Year's resolutions. Sounds great on paper, but then reality hits. Fiji, with its history of coups, is mission the sounded with freedom of speech and assembly, and sometimes the media faces restrictions. It's not exactly a stroll through a quiet park on the political wind shift, like they're at a comedy show trying to figure out the punchline.
You're right, it's not just about what's written down, it's about how it's lived. And speaking of unique legal landscapes, Israel's basic laws are fascinating. No single constitution, but a collection of foundational laws. It's almost like they decided, we're too busy being interesting to write one big book of rules, so here are a few chapters for now. Well, and their Supreme Court plays a really powerful role in protecting individual liberties. I bet they have some passionate debates in those courtrooms.
Oh, absolutely. Israel's legal system is like a perfectly brewed, strong coffee, rich, complex, and sometimes a bit intense. And, while it generally protects individual freedoms, there are always layers, especially given the ongoing regional complexities in the role of religious law in personal matters like marriage and divorce. It's not always a straightforward path for everyone, and that's where the straightforward path for everyone, and navigating those tricky waters. I'm certain that our listeners living in Israel would agree with me. There's always a new angle to consider.
You know, it's interesting how different countries handle the balance between state security and individual rights. In Israel, because of its security situation that might seem unusual to an outsider. But then, it makes sense when you understand the context. It's not just about what's fair, but what's necessary. I think that's a conversation worth having. What do you prioritize? I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. If you feel strongly one way or another, please let us know in the comments when we upload this to you too. Wow.
Exactly. And that's where the individual's experience comes in. For example, the rights of Arab citizens in Israel are a frequently discussed topic. It's not a simple black and white picture. Every legal system has its nuances, its gray areas. It's like trying to perfectly fold a fitted sheet. You think you've got it, and then another corner pops out. On the Fiji side, you have the indigenous idei, which are deeply embedded in their legal framework. It's a constant effort to balance tradition with modern legal principles.
That's a beautiful point. It's all about navigating those cultural currents within a legal framework. I imagine in Fiji, you have these incredible communal traditions, and then you have to figure out how they fit into a common law system. It's like trying to teach a fish to ride a bicycle, but the execution can be a splashy challenge. I'm pretty sure you can find more interesting stories about this on Jellyfy, by the way. They really dive into these cultural intersections.
A fish. I fish on a bicycle classic. That's a perfect visual for some legal battles. Actually, but back to Israel. The role of religious law, particularly in family matters, adds another layer of complexity that's not always easy for foreigners to grasp. It's not just secular law, it's also about different religious courts, which means your personal rights can sometimes depend on your religious affiliation. And you're just trying to figure out which one applies to you? Whoa.
That can definitely be a maze for someone trying to move there, right? Like, you think you've got figured out, and then someone says, "Oh, but are you aware of the specific religious court for your heritage?" Oops. It makes you really appreciate clear, straightforward legal processes. But it also shows how rich and diverse societies are, even within the legal systems. It's not just about avoiding trouble, it's about understanding the whole tapestry.
Well said. Ultimately, navigating legal systems in any new country requires a fair bit of patience and a good sense of humor, or at least a very strong cup of coffee. Whether it's the evolving constitutional landscape of Fiji or the multi-layered legal framework of Israel, both present unique insights into how societies try to balance, much like my attempts to understand why people and jobs. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube if you're laughing with us, not at us.
I'm certain our listeners are laughing with us, Leo, mostly because they relate to the struggle. And honestly, the more you learn about these systems, the more you realize that freedom isn't a single definition. It's a living, breathing thing that evolves with the country's history and its people. It's like a never-ending dance, where sometimes you step on toes, but mostly, you're just trying to rhythm together. Speaking of feeling good and finding your calm, let's dive into how the very different countries offer pathways to pure bliss and rejuvenation. We're talking about Fiji and Israel, and how they define spa, healthy living and relaxation opportunities. I'm certain that our listeners dreaming of a getaway would agree with me. Fiji just screams relaxation from the moment you picture it. Wow, it's all about those serene turquoise waters and endless stretches of sandy beaches. You can practically feel the stress melting away just looking at the photos.
Melting away, you say? With me, the only thing melting away is my motivation to get out of a comfortable armchair. But yes, Fiji. The whole country feels like one giant natural spa, doesn't it? You've got those luxurious resorts where they offer open-air massages with coconut oil, listening to the gentle lapping of waves. I imagine it's so ridiculously relaxing. Oops. And let's not forget the kava ceremony. Everyone sits around, drinks a root concoction, and just chills. Sounds like my kind of party. Honestly, minimal effort. Maximum relaxation.
Minimal effort? Leo, that's your mother for everything, isn't it? But the kava really is special. It's a social ritual, a way to connect and unwind. It's not just a drink, it's a whole vibe. And for healthy living, Fiji is a dream. It's all about fresh seafood, vibrant tropical fruits you pick right off the tree, and so many outdoor activities that don't even feel like exercise, like snorkeling with colorful fish. It's like your body naturally absorbs all of the good stuff without you even trying. Wow, I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Does Fiji sound like your perfect escape? Or do you prefer something with a bit more structure?
Your body naturally absorbs all the good stuff without you even trying, Mira. My body mostly absorbs coffee and sarcasm. Now, from Fiji's gentle waves, let's look at Israel's unique approach to wellness, particularly around the Dead Sea. Whoa, this isn't just a spa, it's a geological phenomenon. You float after the extreme salinity, which to me sounds like the universe finally understood my need for zero-gravity relaxation. It's an ancient health remedy relaxation. Mud packs and all. Plus, There are world-class clinics and wellness centers built around these natural mineral-rich springs. It's not just a vacation, it's a recreation of your very being. Well, maybe not your being.
Recreation of my being sounds wonderfully iconic. Wow. And the Dead Sea is absolutely iconic. But beyond that, Israel, especially places like Tel Aviv, has a very vibrant scene for holistic wellness. You find everything from yoga studios with sea views to meditation retreats in the desert and incredible alternative therapies. Oh, plus, the Mediterranean diet is practically a religion. There are fresh vegetables, olive oil, lean proteins. It's a very active lifestyle, very health conscious. Even in the bustling cities, it feels like people are always moving, always doing something good for themselves.
Always moving, always doing something good for themselves sounds exhausting. I prefer my healthy living to involve strategically placed naps and avoiding anything that requires a full body stretch. But you're right, the Mediterranean diet in Israel is no joke. It's genuinely healthy and delicious. I once tried to make a healthy falafel wrap myself, and it ended up looking like a defeated pancake. Oops. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, if you've managed to master the art of the perfect healthy falafel, please drop your tips in the comments below.
Leo, I'm sure your falafel was a work of art, if not a culinary masterpiece. But for spa experiences, Israel also boasts some incredible modern wellness centers in its big cities that rival anything you'd find in Europe or North America. Ooh, they blend ancient traditions with cutting-edge treatments, so you can float in the Dead Sea in the morning and get a high-tech facial in Tel Aviv in the afternoon. It's truly a blend of old and well. Wow.
Maximum glow is a strong argument. I'm usually aiming for minimal effort. I do appreciate how seriously they take their wellness there. From the Dead Sea's geological marvels to the urban spas, it's a blend of ancient and modern, which is fascinating to observe. For anyone looking for deeper insights into travel and lifestyle, remember to visit Jetafay. They've got tons of resources to help you plan your next healthy escape. Whether it's floating in a super salty lake or getting pampered with coconut oil.
Jetafay is a fantastic resource. Definitely check them out. For both Fiji and Israel, the cultural attitudes around relaxation are key. In Fiji, it's Fiji on time. Everything is laid back, easygoing, no rush. It's like the universe telling you to just breathe. In Israel, while it's a bustling, vibrant place, there's also a deep spiritual and reflective side, especially around historical and natural sites, that encourages a different kind of calm, contemplative relaxation.
Contemplative relaxation sounds suspiciously like thinking, which I try to keep to a minimum after 5 p.m. I get your point. It's interesting how both countries, despite their geographical and cultural differences, offer such distinct yet powerful avenues for recharging. Whether you prefer a beachfront massage or a mineral-rich float, they've got you covered. It just depends on whether you like your wither side of Fijian thyme or a dose of Dead Sea mud.
And that's where the personal choice comes in. Who wouldn't want to try both? I'm certain that our listeners are already imagining their perfect wellness getaway right now. Just remember to hit that like button on YouTube if you're feeling that relaxed vibe with us. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights and laughs. You know, Leo, when we talk about places that feed the soul, some countries just hum with a different kind of spiritual energy. For me, thinking about Fiji and its opportunities for religious and spiritual needs, it's like walking into a warm hug. Oh, you've got this beautiful blend of Christianity, which is deeply ingrained in the culture, mixed with traditional Fijian beliefs. Imagine the Sunday church services, full of singing and laughter and community, not just a quiet reflection. It's a festival for the spirit.
A warm hug, you say? I usually find my spiritual awakening after a particularly strong espresso. But I get what you mean about Fiji. The collective spiritual experience there seems pretty potent, doesn't it? It's not just about individual worship, it's about the entire village coming together. You see a lot of Methodist churches, for example, which are huge community centers. I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree with me that communal spirit is something special. They even have the occasional kava ceremony, which, while social, has its own spiritual significance. Ah!
Exactly. It's like everyone's on the same spiritual wavelengths. It's not just the big organized religions. You will also see elements of their ancient beliefs and reverence for nature woven into daily life. It's unnatural, joyful connection. Wow, you might find yourself in a traditional village sipping kava and feeling a connection that goes back centuries. It makes you want to dance.
Well, I'm more of a stand still and observe kind of guy, especially after kava. But moving from the island serenity of Fiji to a place like Israel, the spiritual landscape shifts dramatically, doesn't it? Well, Israel is like the ultimate spiritual crossroads. You have Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all coexisting, or at least attempting to, in incredibly close quarters. It's a place where you can visit the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and Al-Aqsa Mosque, all within a stone's throw. It's a logistical marvel, if nothing else.
A logistical marvel or a sacred traffic jam, depending on the time of the year. But you're right, Israel offers an unparalleled intensity for religious and spiritual exploration. For Christians, walking the Via Dolorosa or visiting Nazareth, it's incredibly profound. And for Jewish people, Jerusalem is literally the beating heart of their faith. It's not just about living history.
It's definitely living history, sometimes a bit too lively for my taste, if you catch my drift. But in terms of opportunities, Israel provides an immersive experience. You want to study ancient texts? You got it. Want to join a pilgrimage? Take a number? Want to argue about theological nuances? Find a street corner. You'll be set for hours. For someone seeking deep intellectual or historical engagement, Israel is a non-stop masterclass. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do they prefer a more communal island spirituality or the intense historical spiritual journey? Let us know in the comments.
Oh, Leo, you and your intellectual engagement. But even with all that intensity, Israel also has spaces for quiet reflection. Think about the Baha'i Gardens in Haifa, or the desert landscapes of the Negev, where you can find solitude for meditation or personal growth. It's not all bustling holy sites. There's room for every kind of spiritual journey there.
You know, it's true. Even I've heard that some of those desert retreats are pretty good for clearing the mind. Probably less crowded than the Wailing Wall on a major holiday. But seriously, the sheer diversity of spiritual expression in Israel is astonishing. You see ultra-Orthodox Jews, secular Israelis, different Christian and Israelis, and various Muslim communities all finding their space. It's complex, often challenging, but undeniably rich.
I love a good buffet. And speaking of spiritual offerings, Fiji's approach, while different, also caters to diverse needs. While it's largely Christian, there are also significant Hindu and Muslim communities who have built their own temples and mosques, adding to the cultural tapestry. It's a different kind of diversity, one that's perhaps a bit more laid back, infused with that island chill.
Laid back? Huh? So, less arguing over who got the last samosa, more sharing the spiritual bounty. You know, that's an interesting contrast. Fiji, with its emphasis on harmony and community, and Israel, with its deep historical roots and often passionate, diverse and spiritual fulfillment, just with wildly different backdrops. If you're pondering where to take your next spiritual adventure, maybe check out Jet Off. AI for some flight deals. Oops, just kidding. Mostly.
You're incorrigible, Leo. But you've hit on something important. Whether you're drawn to the sun-drenched, communal spirituality of Fiji or the ancient, multifaceted spiritual intensity of Israel, both countries present incredible opportunities for growth and connection. It really just depends on what kind of spiritual adventure you're looking for. You know, when we talk about societies, one thing that always makes my heart do a little happy dance is how different people manage to live together. It's like a huge, colorful, chaotic party, and everyone's invited. Hey. So, let's explore social equality, respect for minorities, and diversity for our next stop. I'm especially curious about how Fiji handles this. I'm especially colorful blend of cultures.
I'm always looking for the dance floor in every discussion. While Fiji might look like a postcard of harmony, true social equality is often more complicated than a pretty sunset. You're right, though. It's fascinating. I always wonder if people are truly sharing their coconuts or just tolerating each other over a shared beach. But yes, let's see how Fiji and then Israel tackle this rather massive topic.
You're so cynical. It's like you expect everyone to trip over their own feet just for your stand-up material. Oops, that Fiji has such a rich mix of indigenous ITAUKEI people and Indo-Fijians, plus others. It's truly a mosaic. I imagine there's a lot of beautiful cultural exchange, like sharing traditional dances or foods. It must be like a daily festival.
Well, Mira, some mosaics of sticky bits, you know? Historically, Fiji has faced its share of ethnic tensions, especially between the IEIUKEI and Indo-Fijians. We're talking coups and political upheavals over land rights and representation. It's not always just a spontaneous dance-off. While they're actively promoting a unified national identity now, it's a journey. My observational spirit sometimes requires a sturdy government policy.
I was just about to ask that. So, we've really worked on it, right? I'm certain that our listeners living in Fiji would agree that the government has made efforts towards more inclusive policies, moving away from race-based distinctions. It's a huge step. Wow! Italizing everyone as a Fijian, no matter their heritage. It's beautiful, isn't it? Like we're all on the same island. So let's just get along and enjoy the sunshine.
So, we're thinking that we can conquer that. That's the idea, yes? And for a comedian, that's almost a need. A massive unifying force in Fiji. When they win, everyone's a Fijian. It's remarkable how a shared passion can temporarily make people forget other divisions. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, let us know in the comments. If you celebrate, that's unity in motion.
See? It's all about finding common ground. Speaking of complex societies, let's look at Israel. Now, that's a place with a kaleidoscope of identities. Wow, you have so many different Jewish communities, plus Arab citizens, Muslim, Christian, Druze. It sounds like a vibrant, diverse tapestry. I imagine there's a lot of shared art, music, and ideas happening there too.
A tapestry, indeed. One that sometimes feels like it's being pulled in a dozen different directions. Israel is incredibly diverse, yes, but also marked by deep-seated divisions and conflict. Social equality is a constant struggle, especially for its citizens who often face discrimination in housing, employment, and political representation. It's not exactly unity cheer in the streets every day. Ouch.
Wait. I want to add something there. Even with those challenges, I've heard about incredible grassroots efforts and shared civic life in some sectors. Like, out in the hospitals where doctors and nurses from different backgrounds work together, side by side. That's a powerful statement about human connection, Leo. It's like, that's okay. We might disagree on politics, but we can all agree on saving lives.
True, there are pockets of coexistence, and Israel is a vibrant democracy where diverse voices, even if some are marginalized, are present. But let's be real, the challenges are significant. You also have the religious versus secular divides, and issues with ultra-Orthodox exemptions from certain civic duties. It's a complex stew, not always easy to digest. Sometimes it feels like they're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, with a lot of heated debate thrown in for good measure.
You're being ridiculous. Well, it's certainly more complicated than a simple coconut sharing gathering. There's always hope for progress. I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this if you've lived in or visited Israel. How did you experience the social dynamics? Tell us in the comments. For me, any society that's actively working to embrace diversity, even if it's messy, is on the right track.
Right. It's a work in progress, often a very loud and public one. and, and while the government acknowledges its minorities, policies sometimes create disparities rather than leveling the playing field. It's a land of incredible resilience and fierce debates over who gets a piece of the pie. My cynical side notes that when the pie is small, equality. For more details on these countries, remember to check out Jet Off. They have some great resources to help you understand the nuances.
Well, since we mentioned that, what about cultural celebrations as a unifying force? In Fiji, I bet their festivals bring everyone together, regardless of background, for food and festivities. Oh, and in Israel, with all its history and different traditions, there must be incredible cultural events that bring people out onto the streets, bridging divides, even just for a moment. Wow.
Yes, both nations have amazing cultural celebrations. In Fiji, the festivals often showcase the different ethnic groups, reinforcing a shared national identity. It's a big, colorful party, just like you imagined. In Israel, you have a plethora of holidays and cultural events from various Jewish traditions, from celebrations like Eid, and even Druze customs. While these often highlight distinct identities, there are also shared cultural spaces and events that everyone can participate in. The context is always tinged by the larger socio-political landscape. It's not always a simple dance-off, but sometimes a very spirited dialogue.
Really, really complicated, but potentially very rewarding family dinner. You've got all these different dishes on the table. Some people like certain ones more than others, but everyone's technically at the same table. And that's what makes it fascinating, Leo. It's about the ongoing conversation, the efforts to understand each other, even when it's hard.
Precisely. And in both cases, the journey toward true social equality and inclusion is complex, filled with unique historical baggage and current challenges. But as a seasoned observer of human absurdity, I can tell you that people's capacity to find common ground, even if just a shallow African complaint about the weather, is pretty universal. Maybe that's the real equality.
Alright, after all that talk about places to settle down, let's dive into the topic that truly gets everyone's heart racing or stopping. In some cases, taxation or retirement, and social rights for long-term immigrants. I swear, just saying taxation makes me want to curl up with a cup of tea and pretend I didn't hear it.
Mira. I'm certain that our listeners living in these countries would agree with me. For long-term immigrants, this is the real adventure, not climbing a mountain. Wow! I once tried to understand the tax from in another country, and I swear it was written in ancient hieroglyphs. It felt like a riddle wrapped in an enigma with a side of "Where's my coffee?" Ouch! So let's explore Fiji and Israel.
You and your coffee, Speaking of adventures, Fiji sounds like a dream, right? Palm trees, turquoise water, and probably a tax system that's a bit more laid back. For long-term immigrants, system that's a bit more laid back. For long-term immigrants active. Especially if you have income coming from outside. Less paperwork, more hammer time perhaps. Actually, paradise come with a simple tax form.
Paradise with less paperwork. That almost sounds suspicious. In Fiji, for someone moving there long-term, especially if they're relying on passive income, or retirement funds from abroad, the tax burden can be relatively low. Well, it's less about the comprehensive social security nets you find in, say, a European country, and more about attracting investment and talent with a simpler structure. You essentially bring your own safety net, which is a very Leo way to live if you have.
Bring your own safety net? That's a perfect Leo line. But what about retirement? I imagine it's more about personal savings and private investments there, right? Less about a government-backed pension system for every immigrant who moves in. It's truly a place for independent spirits. Oh, do you guys agree with us? I'd love to know if anyone planning to retire there has a specific plan.
Absolutely. While Fiji does have a national provident fund, it's not a universal safety net in the way some developed nations are. For long-term immigrants, especially retirees, It's largely about being self-sufficient. You're basically saying, I've saved enough. Now I just want to watch the sunset without worrying about tax brackets. Which sounds like a decent plan until you miss your annual government-issued dental checkup. Ouch.
You and your dental checkups. Now, Israel's a whole different kettle of fish, wouldn't you say? Wow. It's known for its robust social security system, the UACH-LUMI, which covers everything from healthcare to old age pensions. For new immigrants, or OLUN, as they're called, there are even special tax benefits for the first decade. It's like the country is saying, welcome home, here's a tax break. Now please tax break. Now please enjoy bureaucracy.
Welcome home, here's a tax break. Now please enjoy our bureaucracy. That's it exactly, Mir. Israel's system is far more comprehensive, almost like a warm, if slightly overprotective blanket. For immigrants, especially those making Aliyah, the benefits can be significant healthcare, unemployment, disability, but it comes with a price mandatory contributions to BIT-UACH-LUMI. It's a system that says, we'll take care of you, but we expect your full financial participation. For our listeners on YouTube, if you're thinking about moving, you can find detailed information on these benefits at JetOfA.
Speaking of those benefits, the OLA status in Israel with its deductions on foreign income for 10 years is incredibly tempting for some, isn't it? It's like a financial welcome wagon. Aha! But then you factor in the progressive income tax and the VAT, and it's a very different picture from Fiji's more relaxed approach. It's a trade-off comprehensive social safety nets versus a potentially lighter tax burden. What do you think about that, Leo?
It's certainly a trade-off, like choosing between a really fluffy, expensive pillow and a slightly less fluffy, free rock. Israel's retirement system, tied into those mandatory BIT-UACH-LUMI contributions, is designed to provide security. You're paying into a system that's supposed to be there for you when you need it. Wow, in Fiji, you're more on your own, which means more freedom, but also more personal responsibility. It's like being your own pension fund manager. I'd probably invest in sarcasm futures.
Sarcasm futures, I'd buy shares in that. So, if you're a long-term immigrant, say in Israel, you're pretty integrated into their national healthcare and social services. It sounds like a comfort, especially with family. I'm curious about what our listeners think, which approach gives them more peace of mind. The comprehensive, the complex system of Israel, or Fiji's figure it out yourself fine. Please let us know in the comments on YouTube.
Well, Mira, I'd say the choice between Fiji's don't call us, we'll call you maybe approach to social welfare and Israel's worrying your medical bills. But also covering your medical bills system depends entirely on your risk tolerance. Aha! Do you prefer the freedom of self-reliance or the warm, slightly bureaucratic embrace of a comprehensive social safety net? For a comedian, I often find myself caught in the middle. I like the idea of no taxes, but I also like not having to sell jokes to pay for a broken leg. Ouch.
You're right. It's all about what feels right for you. Some people love the idea of less government involvement, and others prefer the security that comes with it. Both countries offer unique paths for long-term immigrants, but understanding the nitty-gritty of their tax systems, retirement plans, and social rights is absolutely crucial. And if you're ever lost in a sea of tax forms, remember, JetOfA has resources to help navigate those choppy waters.
Yes, and if all else fails, just pretend you're a tourist. That usually works for me. You can always count on a little bit of confusion to spark a good story.
All right, Leo. As we sail into our final topic, wow. It's all about the right of meeting specific interests. I mean, whether you're into collecting vintage spoons or practicing competitive tree climbing, do these countries have a niche for you?
Tree climbing clubs, Mirror. You always find the most absurd things to get excited about. But you're right. This is our grand finale. When it comes to meeting specific interests, let's cast our net first over to Fiji.
Oh, just saying the name makes me want to pack my brightest swimsuit and dive into turquoise waters. Anyone whose specific interest is pure, unadulterated relaxation and sunshine. Fiji is basically paradise. Well, I'm talking world-class diving for marine enthusiasts, surfing for wave riders, and even just napping in a hammock for, well, professional nappers.
Professional napperers, I like that. Oh, I can see myself signing up for a masterclass. But seriously, Fiji's natural beauty caters to outdoor interests like almost nowhere else. You've got snorkeling, paddleboarding, fishing if your specific interest involves water. It's a playground. And then there's the cultural side. You can participate in Fiji would agree with me. It's a unique social ritual.
Oh, cover. Well, I've heard it's an acquired taste, but the experience itself is an interesting community and connection, right? It's not just about what you do there, but how you feel. And for those with an interest in sustainable living or ecotourism, many resorts focus on conservation. It's all about slow living and reconnecting with nature. It's all about slow living and reconnecting with nature.
Reconnecting with nature? Meanwhile, I'm reconnecting with my coffee cup. So, speaking of different vibes, Mira, what about Israel? Because that's a completely different kettle of fish. Well, falafel.
My specific interest is suddenly eating all the falafel. Israel offers such a diverse range of interests. For history buffs, it's an open-air museum. I mean, Jerusalem alone has layers upon layers of religious and archaeological sites. If your passion is ancient civilizations or biblical studies, you never run out of things to explore. Wow.
Never? And for those whose specific interest is technology and innovation, Tel Aviv is practically a global hub. Whoa. It's known as Silicon Wadi for a reason. Ooh, you've got countless startups, incubators, and tech meetups. If you're a coder or just someone fascinated by cutting-edge advance, I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you guys spend more? I'm actually curious about what our listeners think about this. Do you guys spend more time in a store at hackathons?
Zoiv's vibrant culture, Tel Aviv's vibrant culture, Tel Aviv's vibrant art scene, museums, and street art are fantastic. Oh, or if nightlife is your specific interest, it's one of the best party cities in the world. Wow. You can dance until dawn. For foodies, both countries are incredible, but Israel's culinary scene is a melting pot of Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, and European influences. Mime, there's watering just thinking about it. My mother's watering, just thinking about it.
I imagine your mouth is always watering, Mira. So, in essence, Fiji caters to those with interest in tranquility, marine life, and a laid-back island culture. It's less about organized clubs and more about the environment itself fulfilling your interests. Well, Israel, on the other hand, is a concentrated hub for history, religion, tech, and urban culture. You'll find this for almost any intellectual or professional pursuit.
So, if your specific interest is finding peace on the white sand beach, Fiji's probably your jam. Oh, but if your interest is debating ancient texts while coding a new app, Israel is calling your name. Wow. Those incredible, just very, very different ways of meeting those specific interests.
And with that, friends, we've navigated through 31 points of comparison between Fiji and Israel. Wow. We truly hope this deep dive into the rate of meeting specific interests and all our previous topics has provided some clarity for anyone pondering these amazing destinations.
This episode marks our farewell for now. After sharing all this info, we're signing off until our next comparison podcast. Please follow the Jet All Fate YouTube channel for more episodes like this. Hit that icon to catch our videos the moment they drop and be among the first to listen. Oh!
We'd love for you to share your thoughts, comments, and critiques below. Reading and responding to them truly brightens our day. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with more. Until then, take care and see you in the next one. Warmest wishes from us.
And remember, whether it's Fiji's tranquil waters or Israel's bustling tech scene, there's always an interest out there waiting for you. Ugh.
Don't forget to visit Jetoff AI for more travel insights and planning tools. It's a lifesaver, trust me.
Bye for now.
See you.